Okay, it's 7:10 on October 21st. I will call the meeting to order with the Economic Development Commission, specifically the Marijuana Retailer Subcommittee. Members present include myself, Renee Deli, Laura Parker, Paul DiGiuseppe, Sandy Olerhead, Mike Units, and Denise Luciano. Tonight on the agenda, we have a couple items. Team Green's here to come back to us with some specific questions that we had after our last meeting's review. We'll have a discussion with our advisors, specifically Chief Clark is on the line, and we'll have a brief discussion with him and an opportunity to ask him some questions if there are any on the applicants. And then we'll conduct our final review, hopefully come to a vote and a decision on the recommendations to the select board. I do have listed the approval of meeting minutes on the agenda. That was me being very hopeful a week and a half ago, but we won't have any of those, so we'll have to address that in a future meeting. Any questions before we begin? Okay, great. Then Jody, thank you for joining. I will turn it over to you and your colleagues there. If you want to walk through a presentation or if you want to go by these question by question, please just let me know.
Jody, go ahead.
I believe Valerio Romano here is going to be starting off.
Hi, thank you very much to the committee for having us here this evening. My name is Valerio Romano. I am an attorney and team member for Team Green Norton LLC. We're really happy to be in front of you. We all reviewed the questions that were presented in writing, as well as the previous hearing. We watched the video, and we're eager for the discussion tonight. I'm joined by, as you know, I think everybody has had a chance to speak with our founder, Ms. Jody Mendoza-Pacala. You know, she owned and operated Mojito's Latin Lounge and Nightclub in Boston for over a decade, and she relocated the business to Randolph under the name Mojito's Country Club. She has her master's in business administration from Boston College. She's an economic empowerment certification recipient from the Cannabis Control Commission and has a provisional license for the operation of a retailer in Boston. I'm also joined by Ed Valenzola. He's a zoning and land use attorney, and he's working with the team for zoning and land use issues, and obviously they're important. And then myself, Valerio Romano from VGR Law Firm. I'm a co-author of Question 4, the ballot initiative in 2016 that ended cannabis prohibition in Massachusetts. I negotiated the very first host community agreements in Massachusetts. I think the first one negotiated was with Mayor Koch in Quincy. Dozens, if not scores of them since. I've obtained scores of special permits for this use. I've had more hearings and meetings for this use than any other group of individuals or law firms in Massachusetts. Literally hundreds of them with different, the 351 cities and towns. I've met with many of them about this use and provided informal town council help. And so I'm really excited to be able to work with Norton. Review of your bylaw it's very thoughtful. This committee's approach to the whole process is incredibly thoughtful and diligent, and it's just exciting to be part of it, and you know, not sort of a haphazard approach. So at this point, I'd ask the committee, so we have a deck. I believe that Jody had sent it off. If you'd like to turn over control to me, I can display the deck on my screen. I don't know exactly how you would like to run that.
You should be able to share right now. So I didn't receive a deck.
Okay.
But I will need a copy of it afterwards just to post with our meeting minutes.
Absolutely. Here, okay. So I'm just firing it up again.
I believe it was sent just a little bit later. It was sent at 6:48, so I apologize for the lateness.
Yeah, we were tweaking it a little bit leading up to the
okay.
So that's.
I read your 6:05 and then I looked and didn't see it, but I do see it sitting there. Perfect. So I'll get that out. Can I access that link?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll get that out to the group afterwards as well.
Okay, and then share screen. Okay, great. So we prepared, we reviewed the questions as I described, and we prepared, some responses based on what we understood from the town and the town's concerns. And so Jody and I and Ed will be, discussing the responses that we have and hopefully address any concerns. I invite members of the subcommittee and anyone else participating to please interrupt me as I'm going through if there's a relevant question, if I can provide any clarification. So anyway, to begin with, I think there was a concern about the LOI and our aggressive timeline. And we were trying to be aggressive intentionally, hoping that we could get to market quickly. But we understand that, it probably wouldn't happen as quickly as we had hoped. What we did was we have extended our LOI to the end of 2021. So we'll have site control all through next year. So that extends it from the February date. So that hopefully that helps to solve that concern for the board. In addition, and as part of that, we've also created a timeline which reflects an opening date of in August now. And the timeline's up. I'll quickly run through some of the highlights of the timeline. I think the board mentioned that they may get through the process of inviting folks or not by the end of this month. I have the invitation on November 6th here of potentially entering into negotiations for the HCA. And I really hope that I can, speak with the board about the HCA. I've done so many of them, and I think I might have some valuable input. We have our community outreach meeting. The certification form with December 10th. We conduct our community outreach meeting, and then the next day, December 22nd, we'll submit our application to the Cannabis Control Commission. We'll submit special permit and site plan application to the board, to the planning board on January 4th, knowing that with the proviso that we would update that application or supplement it with our provisional license from the Cannabis Control Commission. This is the goal of getting open quickly as opposed to waiting for the commission before we even submit that application. Then, special permit, site plan approval, hopefully will be awarded. I'm giving, from January to April with notice dates. Look, I've had some of these take 6 hearings in a year. I've had some of these take 1 hearing in a month. So I'm, giving it, over 3 months, and hopefully that would be sufficient. But if it's not, it obviously will push our timeline back some. But like I said, we have site control through the end of the year, and I bet you, Jody, can go back to the landlord and probably extend that if need be. But hopefully we'll have it done by the end of 2021. Let's say we get demo and construction permits on April 12th. We think we can complete construction by the end of June. Then go back, meet with Norton officials, stakeholders, members of this committee, and then hopefully eventually by July 15th, get a certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy is the trigger for the Cannabis Control Commission for applying for your post-provisional license, really your final license. You can't submit that application. I just did it for a client in Rockland today. You can't submit that until you have your C of O in hand. So assuming we get our C of O in hand on July 15th, then we would submit our license application, our final inspection application with the commission. They come out on the 25th, and hopefully they turn it around quickly, and we're open on August 2nd. During somewhere in that time, I have July 21st, but somewhere in that time, we would work with the police department to finalize our opening day or opening month plan. When we get to the parking and traffic portion of the presentation tonight, we can talk about some of the things that we're committed to calm the concerns that may exist with the site and parking and traffic. So that's our timeline. I hope that helps to solve the any concerns the board may have had with our shortened timeline and our quick LOI before. The next issue is that I saw that I thought was important and worth discussing were the Bank of America funds. Having done many applications throughout the country and in Massachusetts, this is a classic way that proof of funds are submitted for cannabis applications. You'll show the funds in an account. And I think what TGN did actually showing liquid cash in account is, it's actually above requirements. The Cannabis Control Commission no longer requires that you show a certain amount to apply. But back in the day in Massachusetts, although this happens all around the country, back in Massachusetts, I obtained 4 of the first 12 medical licenses after the 2012 ballot initiative. And back then what you had to do was you had to actually show escrow cash, and then you got letters of commitment for that cash. So as part of our application, that's what we did. We put $1 million into 2 accounts, and then got letters of commitment for those. And this is a classic customary way this is done throughout cannabis licensing operations around the country. And in fact, the Department of Public Health did it in Massachusetts as well. Kendra and Sylvia Rashido, are interested in applying in the space, and they went and they got family money, and it's theirs. And I think it was important because I understood the confusion given the fact that, nobody leaves $1 million in cash sitting in an account, right? They had to go and they had to make this money wasn't earning anymore. This is how committed they are to this project. This money stopped earning money for them. And they actually moved it into checking accounts in cash for the purpose of showing this subcommittee that they're serious about this project. It was quite different from, just leaving it in a brokerage account and showing a TD Ameritrade statement and saying, hey, if you need us to, we'll go sell some stocks and maybe we'll have the money for you. They actually went into that extra step. And that was actually based on my recommendation. Let's show these guys how serious we are and actually put the money we need to build this thing out in cash in an account. And so this is actually and so if you look the part, it says available balance of $500,000 in each one of these accounts. Available balance is available balance. And that, so that's available. $1 million was shown, for this application. You combine that with the letters of commitment, it shows a level of sincerity and commitment to this project that I think, is exemplary, having worked on scores of these for the better part of a decade, both in medical and adult use. So that there's that bank account issue, the letter of commitment issue, and the fund issue. I hope that, helps to solve some of that. So that, I'm going to turn it off turn it over to Jody now, because I know the next question was about what the company is going to do. And Jody's the founder and the head of the company. What they would do should the Cannabis Control Commission reduce the required interest an economic empowerment applicant would have to have in order to have the company maintain its economic empowerment status. So Jody, with that, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you. So I wanted to answer this question, and also, if you'll indulge me a little bit, I want to tell you a little bit about to make you really understand what the situation is. To answer the question, categorically, no, I will not, regardless of whatever changes the Cannabis Control Commission does, that will not change not only my ownership amount, but also my control. And this is not, I want you to understand a little bit about who I am and why you can understand that that wouldn't happen. Aside from the things that Valerio had mentioned earlier, my professional achievements, there is a certain way that I operate my businesses. There is the values that I hold are demonstrated within my businesses. And one of the ways I can demonstrate that is to explain to you why I got the economic empowerment certification. So there's different criteria that you can get the certification for. And for me, let me go through the reasons why I got it. So the first criteria that I qualified under was majority ownership has held one or more positions where the primary responsibilities include the empowerment of disadvantaged communities. So one of the ways that I responded to that was I used to serve until, by my third kid, I had to resign my position. But I used to serve on the board of directors for ROCA. And ROCA is an incredible nonprofit out of Chelsea. And what they do is they help troubled, disadvantaged youths who have experienced difficulty, whether they've taken a bad path into drugs, whether they've gotten, whatever sort of problems they may have gotten into, they help rehabilitate them. But this is, some of the things that I could go on to list many, many different ways that I have worked with disadvantaged youths. Just to give you an example, my husband, he's the one who, by the way, the Grammy Award-winning music producer, that's my husband. So just so you understand, yeah, I'm a little proud of him, but he also, that is the highest award that anybody can get. So yeah, I love to say it. But anyway, so one of the perks of being married to him is he has access to a lot of incredible celebrities. So what he did was he took a bunch of these kids that are involved in a youth group that's part of ROCA, and he talked to one of his celebrity friends who was performing at Madison Square Garden, another one who's performing at Fenway, and got these kids who are part of this urban dance group to perform at Madison Square Garden. Got them shuttled out there, got them on stage, let them meet all the celebrities. It's good stuff. And, same for Fenway Park. Second criteria is I am a Latina. So that was one of the qualifying, and that just is what it is. And the third one is demonstrate significant past experience or business practices that promote economic empowerment. I've been doing this since, although it dates me, the late 90s. I even have a commendation from Mayor Menino for fundraising efforts I did after 9/11. That shows you how far back I go. I've done fundraisers for literally every major event where funds need to be raised. I have, bringing up my husband again, we did the Boston Music Conference where we brought the highest level record executives into to talk on panels, celebrities, and then these kids who have never had a chance. Everybody wants to be a baseball player, an athlete or a rock star, right? So it gave these people who wouldn't have a realistic chance of learning about the music industry to come in and let them in to experience this. Cost a lot of money to do it, but it was something we were grateful to be able to provide the community. I can go on and on, but that's not what this is about. But I want you to understand that when you read what it is that I want to bring to the town, it's way more than what it's about me or my benefit or the benefit of of Kendra or Sylvia. Those things, yes, fortunately, I certainly hope that we operate a successful business. But this is about bringing up everybody who works for the company, their families. The webs go out deep. What we'll be bringing to the town is so important to me. But even before I get into what we're bringing to the town, in terms of what we'll be bringing to the employees, I have 3 boys, and it was one of the most difficult things in the world to try to have a career and to figure out childcare. In my business now, I have 80 something employees. And the number one reason why they call out, why they can't go to work, is because they don't have childcare. And there's another thing. People, if you don't have financial stability, and frankly, many of us, things can change from one day to the next. I don't think, especially after this pandemic, anybody can say that they have absolute security. And sometimes you need a little break. Right now, informally, I give microloans to all my staff. It could be for a family member who's passed away. They need help with that, or they need to visit an ailing relative. Could just be the car broke down. They don't have the funds right now. They need to borrow $1,000 for, a month, whatever it is. These microloans are important. What we're going to offer to our employees is important, and that makes a difference. That is what I believe. It's one thing you can say, okay, I'm going to offer a 401k. Well, that doesn't help you when you're trying to figure out how you're going to show up your job and how you're going to progress your family now. Because cash in hand now is worth much more than imaginary cash later. So that's why those things are so important to me. In terms of what we want to bring, and to me, to the town of Norton, and to everybody who's going to work there. But one of the things that we wanted to do is work with veteran services in Norton. My brother, he's a Purple Heart recipient. He was hit by a roadside bomb in Iraq at Al Ramadi. And I know how hard it is to try to rehabilitate yourself and get back into society. So that's something, those are some of the things. I believe that the company's vision and the company's role in the community is equally as important as anything else, because there's a lot more to it than just having a spot in town. I don't know if, I don't want to belabor the point, but that was what I had to say.
Look, Jody, I really appreciate the way you explained it, because I actually haven't heard you explain it in that way before. And I think it's valuable because, part of the selection criteria, and certainly, the event is a tiebreaker, is economic empowerment, certification or notion that we have in the Commonwealth. And as a co-author of the ballot initiative, Shalene Title was one of the drafters. This was something that was really important to us the whole time, and it was important to many of the legislature. But frequently it's a lot of lip service, and people use the words and they don't really know what it means. And sometimes for some people it may just be happenstance of where you were born, but for Jody it's actually it's like her life. And so this economic empowerment portion of this, we really have somebody who's lived this for decades. And so I just think, we had talked about Jody, really explaining this to the subcommittee, and we all thought it was important because it is such an important part of Team Green. It's a really important part of the industry, particularly for those who help put the industry together. And it's, and I know it's part of Jody, who Jody is. So that's part of our company. So thanks, Jody. I appreciate that. The next issue, and please interrupt if the board has any questions, but the next issue was, the parking, the concern that there was insufficient parking. So we did, Van Ness performed a traffic study for the previously contemplated 40B that's on hold, hoping that this will go through, and they performed this traffic study. So the landlord has a relationship with Van Ness and reached out to them and said, can you run some parking calculations? And I think it was actually 25. This slide isn't entirely accurate, but we will dedicate 29 spots, which satisfies the bylaw. We are not, and I'm going to speak in a moment about off-site parking as well, because we also have a verbal agreement with the owner of Alberto's to park next door as well. We're going to park our employees there, but we satisfy the bylaw as far as parking in this spot. So there's two general ways that parking analysis is done. It's either done with ITE data or and the local zoning bylaw. We satisfy both. And should we be recommended to the Board of Selectmen to negotiate or enter in a host community agreement? And as the board noticed in our materials, for us, there isn't much negotiation for the host community agreement. We've agreed on the financial part to match or exceed anything any other group will do. The law is fairly clear at this point at the 3%. We're no problem with any of that. We will add in all the bells and whistles that I've been doing with different communities all around: preferential local hiring, full transparency with local law enforcement, all the different things that are described in our application. But our host community agreement will be as rich and as robust as any other groups. But should we be recommended to the board, we enter in a host community agreement, we're allowed to proceed to the special permit granting authority. We will, of course, have to satisfy them that we can meet the parking needs of this location. And otherwise, we're not going to get a special permit. We'll be spinning our wheels for the next few months. We'll be lucky enough to get a host community agreement, get moved through this subcommittee, but we still have to satisfy them on parking, traffic, safety, all the things that go into special permit. So we will have Van Ness perform another traffic study specifically for this use, bring in the ITE data, as well as an analysis under your local zoning bylaw, and show how the uses in the building, our use, we exceed the number of, we have more spaces there than we need. Additionally, for the opening period, it wouldn't even just be opening day, but we will do appointment only until local law enforcement or the circumstances show with local law enforcement that we don't need it. Like, I don't believe that we're going to have a lot of parking and traffic issues. A lot of the concern was Leicester and Northampton opening up early, and we all saw in the press, oh, these huge lines, and towns were freaking out because all these people were. By the time we're open, there'll be well over 100 of these open. And so those things don't exist anymore. I mean, I work with these all the time. A lot of these have 20 or so spaces, even less. The most popular one is Netta in Brookline, which has like 8 parking spaces, if that. But, a lot of these, we will have plenty of parking. The parking lots of these places are no longer full and packed, with incredible lines out the door. So we'll do curbside pickup. We'll have an express pickup location. We'll have online ordering. We'll have parking lot attendants. We'll hire officers, off-duty officers to come and monitor our parking lot for us. We'll have our parking lot attendants collect data and provide it back to the special permit granting authority, showing what cars come in and out. What can we do? We will fill up the lot with signage as approved at special permit, with one way in, one way out. This is the flow of traffic. We'll have the security agent on site monitoring the lot in addition to the parking lot attendants. We'll work with local law enforcement to approve this opening day plan. And if you go back to my timeline, you can see that's actually in here on the July 21st date, is to work with them. I'm finalizing this plan to your chief's satisfaction, who I believe is actually in the meeting. So we're incredibly interested in working with local law enforcement on making sure this rolls out smoothly, and we'll do whatever we can to do it. And having seen these roll out now over the last few months, not just a couple of years ago, it's smoother and smoother. So, not to belabor it, but, and then we also, now we have this agreement, verbal, but we will memorialize it. It's not hard to check out. I heard in the last meeting that people enjoy the food at Alberto's. I'm looking forward to going there. But we have parking next door that we're going to park our employees there only. So we would not expect, to park customers there. It would just be for employees. If it's unsafe for some reason for them to walk, if there's some concern, we'll shuttle them there. And so we'll have the balance of our 29 spots for customers. So we're not filling them up with our employees. We'll have them park next door at Alberto's. So that's sort of the plan. And then, but whether or not we have this belt and suspenders next door parking, the parking we have on site satisfies the bylaw and satisfies the calculation under the ITE. So that's sort of the issue with the parking. The next issue I saw the board brought up was where in the building we're proposing to put this dispensary and how the overhead door would work. And so this portion of the building is where we propose to put it. And so you see it's highlighted. It's the portion closest to Mansfield Avenue, which is most convenient as far as traffic coming and going from the building. There's actually 2 curb cuts in this building. This building you can actually drive This building you can actually drive all the way around as well. So it's a great building. Big trucks can go in and out. Fire trucks can move through this lot. But we propose to portion it in that green highlighted portion that you see on the site plan. There was a discussion of the overhead door. And so this is our current proposal, and we submitted a floor plan with our application, but this can be amended. If we sit down with the police and they would like us to move customers in from a different area, or fire department or health or the building inspector, of course, we're going to have to be code compliant. But currently that red spot there is the overhead door that we would like to put in. Now the overhead door is a bell and whistle. It's not required. But what it does is you move a Sprinter van in when you're taking cannabis deliveries, because we're only a retailer at this location. You close the door behind you, and then you can take the cannabis out. And then the Sprinter van can leave. So it's a secure way to unload cannabis from wholesalers, and potentially, if sometime down the road this company has cultivation and product manufacturing elsewhere, but it's really to get cannabis from wholesalers in through that door and do the loading in a secure way. What's nice about this building also is that it's an existing building. And I believe the bylaw that passed favors specifically existing vacant buildings. The portion of the building where we intend to site this is vacant. Unlike at least one other proposal that I'm aware of in Norton that has to build from scratch, we actually satisfy that portion of the bylaw which says we favor existing vacant buildings. That's what we're offering to Norton, and that's what makes it extremely attractive. So not only are we properly zoned, we satisfy parking, we have additional off-site parking as a belt and suspenders. Nobody's done more special permits than myself on this use, and we have Ed Valenzola also, who's a land use and zoning attorney that will be working with the group to make sure that we do this to the satisfaction of the town. But then we also satisfy that portion of the bylaw that was passed to the existing vacant building. With that, I'd like to pass it back to you, Jody, if I might, for this next slide.
Thank you. So as I stated earlier, I am the controlling manager. I will not change that. There's, in an LLC, there can be members and managers. So they are defined as a manager because they have the ability to file paperwork and so on for the LLC. They have nothing to do. They will not be able to rescind any of my promises, alter them, edit them in any which way, shape, or form. They have nothing that is that gives them day-to-day control. And when I was trying to decide, putting together the best team, I don't think you can just say money is money. It's great if somebody has money. There are a ton of investors that are trying to get into this market. And there are people with, they have, their money should be as good as the next, except for one thing. There are certain conditions. As I explained to you earlier, there is a way that I want to run the company. There are things I want to offer to the staff that maybe don't make financial sense, but they make social sense to me. And what was great about Kendra and Sylvia, they are on board with what it is that I want to do. They're on board with what I've promised the town, and they've promised not to interfere. And as an entrepreneur, I have had partners that were awful and partners that are awesome. And I work best with a silent partner, and I prefer to answer to my staff, my customers, and my community. So they have nothing to do with it. And there was one thing that was mentioned, did I select them because they're women? No, I mean, yes and no. Okay, I don't need them to make this a woman-owned company because I own 51%, I'm not giving that up. So by definition, it is a woman-owned company. But all things being equal, I would and I will continue to select a woman because I want to empower women, and I like that, and I don't see why not. But that wasn't why I picked them, because honestly, I don't need that as one of the criteria. So that's just, a bonus.
Yeah, so, Jody already has the economic empowerment certification, but, the Cannabis Control Commission also recognizes social equity applicants. She's already fast-tracked through the Cannabis Control Commission process. Team Green Norton will be because of the economic empowerment certification. But, the Supplier Diversity Office gives this women business enterprise to majority-owned women companies. And with or without Kendra and Sylvia, TGN is that majority-owned women company. So we like sort of double up in the favorability rating with the Cannabis Control Commission. So thanks for explaining that, Jody. So, the last slide that we have here is just, I know it's small, I apologize, but we wanted to sort of fit it all in one slide. I know you guys are aware of this, so I won't belabor it too much, but I'm going to run through it quickly. And Jody and Ed, if you'd like to, but, interrupt if you'd like. But I'm going to run through it really quick. We knock out of the park all of Norton's criteria for selecting one of these places. Knowledge and understanding of licensing. I mean, I drafted the ballot initiative. Jody has an economic empowerment certification and a provisional license in Boston. I've shuttled groups through state and local licensing in Massachusetts since the first day of medical. And, I submitted just today, another post-provisional license inspection to the Cannabis Control Commission for another group on the South Shore. Nobody has done more of this licensing than we have. Ed, who's done local permitting also, although I've done a lot of it, he's done local permitting for years and years longer than I've even, than I have. So we have the licensing down. Prior experience in commercial cannabis or other relevant experience. So one of the great things that Jody brings to the table is also her or connection to Sierra, and Sierra was one of the first operating companies. The other relevant experience, Jody operates, a successful, busy nightclub with 80 employees. It's in a highly regulated industry. It's absolutely relevant experience. And then I've been doing compliance for these different groups for years as well. We absolutely knocked that out of the park between Jody and Sierra and my background. We just have it in spades. Yes, Jody.
Sorry to jump in. One of the things I noticed that it seems that the other applicants, most of us, I don't know everybody, but it seems like most of us are backed or in some way affiliated with or franchised by. I'm not sure how the relationship is, but everybody kind of has a person who has one of these big mega companies in the marijuana business who is supporting them. Just so you understand, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So either they have controlling interest, or they don't. In our case, they don't have controlling interest. They have no ownership. One of the reasons why Sierra has been so helpful to me is because it helps them with the Cannabis Control Commission, quite frankly, because one of the things that they're meant to do is to help other people enter into the industry, people who are faced with some disadvantages. It's difficult. This industry is so tough. And some of the things other applicants have said, it's true. Are there shortages? Does it help to have affiliation with whether it's Cultivate, Solar Therapeutics, Sierra, any of them? Yes, of course. That is a critical thing. It helps you keep your shelf stocked. That's important. But you also want to make sure that the company that's here isn't a national company or an international company. The company that's here that's saying what's going to happen in Norton is a company that's local. And that's what we bring to the table. So Sierra's support is just that. It's support because it is something that they have committed to the Cannabis Control Commission to do. But this is our place. I just wanted to put that in there.
Oh, that's great, Jody. Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. I mean, basically, they're providing their knowledge, their experience, their intellectual property, but they didn't buy their way into a piece of our company. They're doing it because of their relationship with Jody and their promise and their commitment to the industry as a whole, particularly in Massachusetts, to be a good operator. But it's not like they bought our way in and we're beholden to them beyond that, and I think, and that's valuable. We're going to be, yeah. So I think Jody said it well. And I'll just touch on some of these. I think our application, I listened to the concerns of the board, and a lot of the things that I heard from the board also were positives. I thought that I believe the board or the subcommittee thought that we had a strong application, and we displayed good plans. So I'm not going to belabor the management and operations plans. As we get further, when you submit your post-provisional license inspection to the Cannabis Control Commission, you have to have your policies and procedures, your operating plans, your full set of them available. Those are transparent with the town. We will give you a copy of them. We'd like to keep them, confidential, but you'll have the full set of our operating procedures. We invite local law enforcement, Board of Health, fire, anybody who wants to have input and help us amend those and write them. I mean, for every one of the groups that I work with, they're really a living document, but those policies and procedures will be available to the town as well. And, I've just finished up another set yesterday for another client. This is something that we do, and what we wrote in our application, I think the board recognized was strong. The security plans, I'll defer to the chief, but we're eager to continue to work with local law enforcement. We obviously can't get open without special permit. When we submit that, it's going to go all the municipal departments, and we're going to have to satisfy the security concerns of the town. I always think of these as special permits, right? There's a special permit, but it's a cannabis special permit, so there's like incredibly more scrutiny. Plan to prevent diversion. I don't think the board had any criticism or comment of that. We're going to do everything that we say in our plan, and we're going to, we ID. These things are so much more scrutinized than just even an alcohol establishment, right? Fake IDs and whatnot. By the time somebody actually purchases cannabis, I'm not going to belabor, but they show their ID 3 separate times. They actually have to slide and scan their ID to even come in. So we are going to, all of our things are seed to sale tracked. I mean, we will prevent diversion, and we have plans to do it, and we're going to continue to share those. I don't want to belabor it.
Valerio, before you continue
Yes.
on, if I may, I just
Of
want
course,
to
Ed.
step back to one of the areas I think is, in my purview, the security plans. I've been involved in, not as much as Valerio, but I've permitted a number of the recreational in addition to medical marijuana locations. And one of the most recent is in Mansfield, which is where my office is. And one of the things we did and we committed to was working very closely with the traffic safety officer, with the police chief regarding the operations. And that includes everything from parking, the traffic direction, how many people are we going to have in the lot so that if cars start to queue up, they can move them along around the building and out of the lot. A police detail outside on the roadway. So we would work, and we commit to work very closely with the chief of police as far as what his requirements are. One of the things we did in Mansfield is we have a staggered schedule so that initially, it's by schedule, you set up a schedule, you come in and you visit the site. And then as the chief determines, you start to back off a little bit and you allow more cars to come in and people to shop. But if it gets too busy and the cars are queuing out into the street, then, if the chief, and we wouldn't need the chief to tell us to do this, but we would back off. But in other words, what I'm saying in a very wordy way is that we work closely with the town of Norton, with the chief of police, traffic safety, to ensure that everything about the operations, getting in, getting out, security is going to be to their satisfaction.
Hey, thanks, Ed. And something I think it's worth mentioning. I know there was a brief discussion at the hearing that I listened to last time when our proposal was being discussed. And the host community agreement is more than just a 3% payment, right? It's a contract between the operator and the town. And you can actually, the good ones actually put in provisions that are beyond just monetary. I think I had mentioned, preferential local hiring and transparency and working with local law enforcement. But should some of these things that we're talking about not seem like they may wind up as conditions of the special permit, which we would certainly welcome them. But then we'll, leading up to that, we're happy to make these promises that we're making verbally now, because we don't have another vehicle to put them in writing other than our application materials. We're happy to make them provisions of the host community agreement as well, because it's not just the 3%. It's a contract and an agreement of the way that this thing is going to operate. In fact, the financial component isn't even required. It's everything else. It's the agreement itself that is. So anyway, I think that's worth mentioning, is that this is not, we're not merely paying lip service to what we plan on doing. We're willing and eager to memorialize it. And in fact, I can promise you that the host community agreement template that your council has provided to Norton is one that I probably originally drafted. So I'm happy to work on it. Certainly part of it are my words. So I'm happy to work with council. I don't know if you're, a Copeland in Pagetown or not, but I'm happy to work with Norton on, on finalizing that host community agreement and really fitting in all these additional things beyond the monetary. So on to the next criteria, the market and financial feasibility. I think something that I neglected to mention before is, these timelines and the goals of getting to market, quickly, but responsibly, but quickly. We already have an existing building. We don't have to build from scratch. The idea that somebody's going to get local permitted major site plan review for new construction, and then get through all of that and then construct and be open by, maybe July, sometime at the end of the summer, is probably, it's also incredibly aggressive. All we have to do, is renovate an existing building. I mean, there's certainly significant security. You got to put in a vault. You got to, climate control the vault. You got to do a lot to the building. There's a major overhaul here, and it beautifies the building and the facade. But we're going to get to market a lot more quickly, beyond the fact that the bylaw likes that. So we have the $1 million. products. We have the existing building, we can get to market, and we have the operating experience. So market and financial feasibility, I think, again, we meet in spades. Again, that goes to the timeline. The next one, appropriate location. I believe our location is exceedingly appropriate. It's an existing building. It's preferred. We have significant parking, and we will dedicate 29 spots, and we have the offsite parking I talked about. So, and our parking lot is actually great. We have 2 curb cuts, so you can pull in, have traffic go one way and pull out from a second curb cut. So it's actually great for traffic and queuing of customers. We have a significant size of an outside building. We have 5,600 square feet or so of the interior floor space. Half of that will be actual retail for customers. There's plenty of room to queue up indoors. We will not have to have customers waiting in line outside to get in, because we have, a small, I permitted one that was under 800 square feet once, and that one was a little more challenging. But this one, 5,600 or so square feet with the back of the house for storage and order processing and inventory, and then the same amount, the other half in front there's plenty of room for customers to queue up inside. So the appropriate location, the financial commitments and other proposals for positive community impact. My impression from listening to the board, to the committee at the last hearing, was that it recognized that we are doing that. And Jody's spoken about the absolute requirement. It's her sort of steering the ship, the absolute requirement for her in running a business for doing that. So our positive impact, is evident. I think the board hopefully recognize that. And then the financial commitments, like I said, we will meet or exceed any other promises anyone else gives. I'm eager to work with local council on those as well. The goals for geographic diversity and the locations, that I'd sort of leave up to the committee and the planning board, because I just don't know who else is necessarily truly being considered for this. I mean, I know who's in front of the committee, but I sort of leave that one up to you. But we fit the zoning bylaw with an existing building right off Mansfield Ave with significant parking and entrance and egress. So I think it's a good location. Detrimental municipal impacts and acceptable mitigation measures. We address this in our application. I think as a whole, from one of the authors of the ballot initiative, I actually think this use frequently, if rolled out properly, is quite good for a community. It's not just 3% from the host community agreement, you're gonna get another 3% from the local option tax. So that's 6% off the top. If we do as much as 10 million in sales a year, and some of these do significantly more than that, if we do 10 million in sales, that's $600,000 off the top. So that helps to, that can go back to, mitigating any concerns, substance abuse counseling, working if there's a traffic light that needs to go in a few blocks away. I mean, there's significant money there that goes back to the town for mitigating detrimental municipal impacts, which I think overall the goal of this as an author was to actually end the black market for cannabis, have quality tested cannabis that isn't sold by drug dealers to kids. That's part of the goal of what we did here. And then, finally,
Valerio,
yes.
if I could just ask, just in the interest of time, I think that you guys addressed all of the questions that we had. So if
Yes, that was our last. This is our last slide.
Okay, go for it.
I'm done. And so just the fact that Jody is economic empowerment, person, more than just, a qualified applicant. So this is our last slide, and that's the end of our presentation. So that was perfect timing. I thank you for your patience with us. Thank you.
Is there anything that we didn't answer that you would like further clarification on?
So I'll open it up to the subcommittee if you guys have any questions for the group. Go ahead, Laura.
I just wanted to know, how did you pick Norton?
Well, the truth,
That'd be great.
No, lie to us, please.
I was about to say no lie to us.
No, so my reasons, I started off, what I fell in love with Norton on, honestly, was a reservoir. And I loved that. Of course, I know the Rashido family. So I I had spoken to them. I was just seeing the site. I know that they had other people that were interested in the site. I knew they had it for a long time. I had been there. I had been looking at the back of the building, to see the reservoir. And I liked it. And then when the opportunity presented itself, it was something, it didn't occur to them. It didn't occur to me. I'm in this business. And when this all was happening, it didn't occur to me. And then it was kind of one of these like moments like, wait, what about us? And so it happened.
It's a great location too, if I may. It's right near 495, so you don't have the traffic going through the center of Norton, as in some of these places that we permit. They're going down side roads, they go through shopping centers. So it's easy on and off from 495. You can even direct the traffic coming out of the location to right turn only, because as you know, up by Reservoir Street, where the hotel's being built, I believe there's a traffic light that's going to go in there that'll stop the traffic both ways. So your sight distances will be good. So it's really a fantastic location where 495 and then further up 95 is located. And as you know, the property owner has permitted this or started the process for 40B. So this is their preference for the use for this property. It makes a lot more sense, they think, for this building and the property and for the town of Norton.
But it's also, Norton's just really pretty. So I like that too. But yes, all the practical reasons you said as well. Anything else?
Okay, I don't see any other questions. So guys, definitely thank you so much for coming tonight and providing the presentation and the response to our questions. Really appreciate it. You're more than welcome to stay on the line and listen to the rest of the discussion for the meeting, but I am going to put you back into the attendee list just so that the panelists have an opportunity to talk. Thank you again.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
And give me a second. I want to make sure I don't bump you guys. Okay, just a note, Michael Toole joined us at about 7:33 as well, so you'll see him on your screen. I don't know if anyone else saw him come in. Okay, Chief. Park, you there?
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay.
So folks, just so you guys know, Chief and I had a quick conversation, I believe yesterday or maybe the day before, just about, I was providing him some background in respect to the security plans and the confidentiality and what town council had advised us about those items becoming part of our meeting, specifically under open meeting law. So the chief, as you know, he and Paul and Mike have seen the security plans outside of what we have seen, and he's here just to give us his summary or any opinions that we should take into consideration when we consider the applicants. So thank you, Chief, for joining us.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so I reviewed them. I mean, they're pretty comprehensive. The CMR is pretty specific and very thorough on what each establishment has to do. I met with 2 of the 5 applicants, and I had a phone conversation just with one of them. The 2 I met with were rather in depth. Some of my concerns is, I want to make sure there's immediate notification of anything that might occur. Obviously, I think the security video systems are pretty well established in the CMR on what has to happen. you know, traffic is always a concern. It comes up all the time on what location, and if there's any impact on traffic. You know, living in Norton, the roads that were built 50 and 60 years ago don't really take into effect what we have for traffic today. The access to video systems, some of the security plans have that notified, that they'll allow us to have that. One in particular is very cookie cutter. I found it had really no mention of Norton, which is a little concerning. But you know, certainly listening to a couple over the time that you've had it. I haven't listened to everyone that's come on. I have been in and out, seeing a couple. I mean, you've all asked some very good questions. So I guess I'll stop talking and see exactly what questions you might have.
And Chief, who is the one that was more cookie cutter, not focused primarily on Norton?
That was Rosebuds.
Okay.
I think we all had that feeling about the entire application, Chief. Ryan, is there any training this is outside of the applicants right here. Are there any additional trainings that your men and women need by bringing one of these to town?
Well, we've talked about, you know, potentially training a DRE. I mean, it's very lengthy. Some of the I'd have to go back through my notes, but there is some mention of training DREs, and maybe a little more training on you know, narcotics related driving offenses that might come up out of those things. There's actually a specific name for the class. I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's only a couple of days versus a DRE program, which is like 3 weeks. So
yeah.
And I think we put those in the HCA, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I know I mentioned it when we all started this conversation. So
Yeah.
So, you know, we've talked a lot about traffic, and I mean, you know, if there's one thing that comes out of project in this town, it's increased traffic. Now, common sense will tell you we want a retailer to come here. We want that retailer to bring in traffic. We also, you know, have concerns just overall. I know with this last applicant that we had, Team Green, there was some mention of shuttling, and so we had some concerns there, but I think that they addressed that in the meeting tonight. So, I mean, it's twofold. Like, I want to make sure, because while I don't think it's going to be a rush like it was when the industry first started opening up the retail shops, I think, because to your point, right, our the way our infrastructure is, I think that there's going to be at least some initial impacts to traffic. I guess I would ask you, did you get the sense from what you reviewed or the conversations that you had that any of the applicants aren't willing to work with the town and to address those issues should they become a problem initially?
I don't believe that anybody wouldn't work with us, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You know, just listen to the previous Team Green. I mean, I did meet with Jody. You know, she's obviously willing to work with us. You know, another company that I met with was the same way. It comes down to, you know, what type of infrastructure will better assist us with traffic, and what could be done in those in areas that traffic might become an issue.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mike, have you, I know that they mentioned a light going in that would be on near the hotel. That's obviously in Mansfield, so kind of out of our purview, but had you heard of anything about that or changes to the highway structure?
I haven't heard about any changes to the highway structure. I know they are putting a light in there.
Okay. And that's it, Reservoir?
Right
Okay.
there. And they're supposed to put signs to tell everyone that comes out of there to take a right, not a left. So
Out of the hotel?
Yeah.
So by signs, is it like state signs where you can turn left, or just we suggest you go
No, and the exit that comes out on Reservoir Street, they'll have signs there, no left turn.
Huh, I wonder if our residents know that.
No, not coming from, not turning onto Reservoir Street, but coming out of the parking lot of the establishment. Their exit out onto Reservoir Street. At that
Okay.
at that exit, they'll be telling people to take a right to go out to 140.
I got you. So they're not traveling through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Essentially. Okay.
I don't think I'd be speaking out of turn if we talk about Mansfield Ave. You know, we have to talk about what impact Xfinity and the traffic that happens around there would have on that specific area. You know, I know a traffic study might be done and that might be able to solve some of the questions that we might have.
And Chief, just on that point too, I'm sure you're aware with one of the concerns we have with the 40B is that it's a residential area in an area where, as you know, traffic backs up and concern about people even getting in and out of a residential area, which I'm sure it's a different situation if this were to go to marijuana.
Yeah.
Let me ask the question. If when life gets back to normal and we start having concerts over at Xfinity, where would a requirement even or an evaluation of the requirement in the first year or two fall, or the responsibility for a detail at one of these parking lots? Obviously, solar therapeutics and this during a concert, there might be, I would imagine there would be a fluctuation of traffic into one of these in one of these establishments. Paul, would that fall into your group that say during Xfinity concerts that a detail is required?
So when they come in, let's say they come in for the special permit, the traffic analysis is not going to be based on 2020. They're going to have to look at traffic flow from 2019. So, you know, they're going to have to build in some, I don't know how, but we assume that when Xfinity has shows that there's going to be a lot of traffic, if there are any stores in this area that people might stop and buy, and I don't know, but that may be something that the planning board will have to take a look at, is what happens during big events like a show at Xfinity.
Yeah, I mean TBC too, or one of the golf tournaments.
But Michael, I think I challenge you though, because do we ask that of the current folks? I mean, Alberto's is policing their own parking lot so that concert goers don't park there all night, right? I don't know why this would be any different. And some of them, and I doubt that this would be the case with a retail establishment, but some of them even shut down and then they just rent out their parking lots.
Yeah.
I would think that would be not advantageous in this
Renee, I
type
think
of an industry.
Any type of business like this, I would challenge this with an alcohol liquor store going in there as well. There's going to be a flow, an unreasonable amount of traffic coming into an establishment like, and I could be off base, but I don't think I am. An unreasonable amount of traffic all at once coming into these establishments and leaving these establishments. That's will break up the normal flow of the traffic.
Yeah, I mean, that's the effect of.
And I will surrender. I am not a traffic engineer, so I will back down. I didn't even stay at Holiday Inn last night. So
no, I think I think it's true of anything when there's a concert, right? And those of us who live in town, we avoid the area during.
But
a
it's
concert,
different than
right?
Alberta. It's different than like a restaurant or a Cumberland Farms. It's different than that. This is
This is something to enhance your concert experience.
Are you, Michael? Are you suggesting that
an alcohol and
could
a
have
liquor store would be that as well?
Chief, could I just ask the chief, what are the chances? What do most of those businesses in that area do during concerts? Are they open or closed?
Well, Alberto's is open, where Team Green is looking to go. I mean, they have in the past parked cars there for concerts. The Solar Therapeutics up the street, the same thing at the old mini golf. They were parking cars there. We did have a detail there because of the way Xfinity was having cars leave. We had actually in the evening, we had a detail there. I think probably Mike's right. It is different. I don't know exactly what to expect. Maybe people won't go down there when there's a concert. It's even, one of my concerns, I guess, is the pedestrians. I really don't want pedestrians crossing the street to get there. We have had people hit and killed out there. But, maybe streetlights could be improved. But we don't really know exactly what to expect in that area from, this business alone. I think Alberto's will tell you that that not as many people go to Alberto's during a concert. At least that used to be under the old manager, that the discussions I had with him. So.
Yeah, and I think too, and we should consider this, right, and to be very thoughtful throughout the special permitting process. But like Chief, I think you bring up a good point about people crossing the street. Like, that's one of the things we can look at with the community impact fee. That if we need to get the electronic crosswalks and I think that's what they're called, electronic crosswalks in some painted areas.
Mhm.
I see Michael smiling.
Or just at least have a detail, guaranteed on concert nights, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know now during concerts when I've been down there, like people just like bolt across the street, like regardless of what's there, they're just trying to get, from one point to the other.
So one of the things that I guess I'm going to have a question, and just for understanding, as we move forward and make our recommendation to the select board, Chief, when do you work? Do you work with Paul Di Giuseppe to kind of, so let's say I'm just choosing Team Green just out of the blue. And obviously we have crosswalk concerns, we have lighting concerns, we have traffic concerns. Obviously the planning board's going to tackle some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you involve the chief into that point, Paul, or is there, what I don't want to do is basically say, hey, we're approved. Hey, by the way, chief, good luck.
No,
that's the first thing we can do.
So Michael, with the planning board, we bring in, a whole host of different departments. We'll bring police in, when we think it's appropriate to bring them in, but fire's always involved, building commissioner.
All right, so
Yeah.
they'll be involved, and these are questions that I'm pretty sure the planning board's gonna, they're better versed than myself in these matters. So.
Where is I don't know, the facility, the marijuana retail facility in Mansfield, where is that?
By Buffalo Wild Wings in that plaza where Red Bakery is.
I'm
Probably
asking because
the
I
worst
wonder
traffic area.
I wonder how many people who are going to a show will go to that or some other nearby facility, before the show or after the show. I don't know. But that's not that far away.
Right.
I can tell you that from concerts, like people want to go to the concert. This is our biggest problem, that when Roach Brothers was open, or, the Roach Brothers Plaza, like people want to get to the show and they want to get in the lot, and the lots don't open, specifically early. So usually people are mulling around. So, I mean, the location, I think that Mansfield Ave location, I think will get some business.
And I don't think it helps is after the 2 years ago, Waze shut off any exit from 495 on a concert. They don't let you off of 495 anymore. So I think that kind of aggravated.
Who did?
Will aggravate the situation. Waze.
Oh,
Remember Waze started doing road routing everyone through towns. They no longer do that. They keep you on 495.
well, I mean, and that's like, again, you think about traffic coming through the town on concert nights, they're still coming through because you can't get off that exit.
Correct.
You can't get off that exit going northbound. It would be great if the state was looking at changing that so that you could, but I think we're still, and not necessarily an impact from any retail establishment that goes on 140, but it's an impact.
Well, I
during
think
concerts.
as you all are the EDC, we need to be thinking long-term about that, about that roadway, regardless of marijuana or not. It's in bad shape. It's not sufficient for cars, and it's really deficient for people walking it or biking it. And we, as a community, probably need to start to prioritize that area, especially if we want to see growth in that area. But we're having the same problems with the conversations with the 40Bs, like how do people cross? Well, you don't want them to cross right now. We don't have any safe crossings anywhere in this area. Roach Brothers, for whatever reason, we didn't make them put a light in. We should have. you don't want people crossing mid-block on a highway like that. But by not having done that, we've hurt ourselves in a lot of ways.
Great.
We should be looking at working with DOT to, especially as we start doing, future tips, transportation improvement programs, looking at this area.
Yeah,
Try to
I think
get-
that's true for 123 and 140, right? We created a speedway.
Yeah, well, I'm just picking one battle at a time.
I know.
But yeah. Chief, were there any of the applications, they talked about how quickly they would respond with you when there was an incident? Were there any that you felt you were more comfortable with?
No, that's one of the things I put it together like a requirement list, and maybe that's, when you talk about doing a host agreement, and it's like a 1 page, it's only maybe 10 bullet points, but certainly immediate notification is what I'm looking for. I think there is some that mention within 24 hours, but really, it really should be immediate upon notice.
Right.
I'm going to pull that up. I believe I sent it to the group too, when Chief Clark sent it to me. I'm going to take a quick look here. I know I have it. If anybody else has it in their email and they can find it faster.
That specific bullet point is actually the last one, so it's actually the easiest probably to find.
I think I found it. I don't know. My email doesn't show attachments now anymore. But I think one of the things I was thinking of, and I think it's probably more for the select board, is that we take that list and in the evaluation process there, we confirm that they're going to try to adhere to those items that you listed, Chief, specifically for Norton. I can't find it in this email.
I have the Word document, the retail establishment requirements.
Yes.
I have it. Do you want me to share?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hold on.
I mean, I'm not opposed to going out to anyone else too, like for confirmation of that, if we wanted to before, we completed our review process. I'm certainly open to ideas.
Any particular area you want me to scroll to?
Chief, I think you talked about the video system, right? That really
Yeah, to have, that's one of the second bullet down, really, just to have remote access when necessary. That's very helpful for us.
okay.
We've kind of talked about traffic studies. I think that some locations are going to need them anyways. Maybe all the locations might need them, but that's something that when you choose who you're going to go with, we should have more of a discussion about.
Okay. And the roof access and the one afterwards about the deterrent to the unauthorized vault wall access, those are in addition to what's in the CMR?
They may be embedded in there, but it was stuff that I picked out that I thought would be beneficial to have.
Okay.
As you know, the CMR is several pages, and then each individual security plan is several pages. So, and they're all slightly different.
Hey, I have a question, more of a security question. I don't know if you can answer this, but when you put on shatterproof film onto the exterior windows, will a glass break still work and detect that it's been broken?
We'll have to try it.
So the traffic study is required by the special permit anyway, right, Paul? So all of these will have that done?
Yeah, so I think that's going to, any of these, whichever two go forward are going to be really under a microscope
Okay.
for traffic for sure.
And I think the detail officers, if I remember, that's in the HCA, and initially council pulled it out and we put it back in, and it also says it's at the cost of the owner of the establishment as well. Okay, and then that last bullet, Paul, if you could just scroll down, is just to make sure the immediate notification to the
Yeah.
police. Is that the last one on there, Paul?
Yep, that's as far as it's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll put it out to the committee on whether or not, is this something that we would want to go back out to the applicants we've spoken to see if they would comply, or if there are any issues with it? Or are we comfortable with having that be part of the conversations after our recommendations that happen with the select board?
Well, this will go into the HCA, correct?
I don't know. I'd have
It's going to
to.
get that detailed. I would have.
Right.
I was under the assumption that this would be part of the special permit.
So
approval
conditions
process.
of the special permit.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that if you did send this to the applicants, with a quick turnaround, I mean, they're probably going to tell you yay or nay, I would think that the majority of them would say yay. I mean, I don't think there's anything outrageous in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's nice for them to have as a heads up that these are the things we're going to be looking for.
Right.
Whether we need to have it addressed now, probably not.
Okay.
And let them take themselves out of the running if they can't meet the requirements.
Okay. Awesome. Any other questions for the chief? No? Okay. Chief Clark, thank you so much. Appreciate your time
Okay, thank you.
and,
Good luck.
and reviewing and talking to us. Thank you.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we're on to what may be the final item to talk about the final review vote or a decision on the recommendations to the select board. So I will open it up. We are missing Mr. Massini this evening, and as you guys know from email, Anthony had to resign due to other commitments. So I think otherwise we're all on the line. So I'll open it up. Feel free to start wherever.
Can I just ask a quick question? Sorry. And they may have sent this already, but did Team Green send an amendment to their letter of
I believe that is a yes.
intent or interest? I forget.
Yep.
what-
Let me
They
take
did,
a peek.
okay.
They definitely did. Denise, you remember when that came through by chance? I'm gonna look through my email that doesn't search
I-
very well.
Do know I have it. I can forward it, Renee, while you're talking.
Okay. Does it have the December date? I mean, I imagine it does. I just didn't remember. I thought it was shorter in the letter that was sent.
It might
I
just
don't
be an amendment.
remember. Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I'll look.
Okay. Thanks,
Or an
Denise.
endorsement of some sort.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I'm not all that happy about the search capability right now in our email. Okay. So why don't I kind of start us off? So we have 5 applicants. Oh, let me pause for a second and congratulate all of us on the successful approval by the town. Almost unanimous from where I was sitting. I don't know if anybody behind me was voting no, but for the bylaw and the marijuana overlay district. So congrats to the team on that. I gotta tell you, and I know I've said this a million times, but I still think we should have went with 30%, especially now that we're having these conversations and have the level of interest that we have. Because in 5 years, this probably won't exist anymore, and it will just be like any other establishment that you put in town. But when the questions, there were some questions about, the benefits to the town and increasing the percentage and things like that. Like I was thinking in my mind, but then I was thinking of the scowl that I might get from other committee members on suggesting that we change and we amend the 20% to 30% at the meeting. So I didn't do that.
I think it's
Thank you.
It's a good place to
Baby
start.
steps, Renee, baby steps.
Yes.
I know, but I mean, I
If
felt
we
like
have
had a lot of
one-
support.
If we have one operating by 2022, we'll be lucky.
You want to put some money down on it?
Sure.
Wah, wah.
The process is just,
It is.
None of these steps are easy. Not
I
our
think,
steps, not
right.
state steps. None of them are easy.
Hey, Paul, is the planning board, is every member seated? Like, are there any vacancies right now?
No, nope, they're
Okay.
fully,
Excellent. I mean, I honestly think that's going to be the longest part of the process. I do, but I am prepared and I have
what
prepared
makes you say
traces.
that?
It could
Yeah.
go either way. Between the state and the planning board, it could go either way.
So can I, one,
Sure.
now we have the 5 applications and I know that, we have in the bylaw it talks about trying to make sure we don't have, that we have geographic dispersion. And I realize we have a 500-foot limit. Of course, we have 2 that were within 500 feet, but I guess the question I'm asking is because we have 3 generally in one area, if we went with the two in the Mansfield area, do you have concerns that we be running afoul of the intent of the bylaw? Or not? I'm not.
I mean, the
myself, I'm not
intent, yeah. The
I'm not,
intent is, sorry.
I don't think that the distance between the two of them that are not within 500 feet is an issue, but I just.
What do you mean you don't think that's an issue?
Well, for geographic dispersion.
Right. I mean, the tent is definitely geographic diversity, right, within the town. But if we felt that the 3 applicants on Mansfield Ave were better positioned than the one at exit 10, then that's the decision, right? I mean, we certainly, our perspective from the overlay, and I think holistically, like, you look at location. So you want that
Yeah.
there, but I don't necessarily think that it hinders us. I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is how are we going to move forward with 2 applicants who right now are within 500 feet? My preference would be not to send both to the select board because I don't think that decision should be made at their level, given the amount of review in detail that we've done as part of this.
Right.
But it goes back to, we send it to the select board, but we've said in the bylaw that we can't have 2 retail establishments within 500 feet. We're kind of going against, something that we actually wrote.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my concern.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if everybody shares that same feeling, but please feel free to
So
weigh
I
in.
gotta say, to Paul's point, even though we may have 2 that are outside the 500-foot limitation, and I think I would probably wait on the side of having them dispersed in different areas of the town versus having 2 essentially in the same market area, getting the same pass-through cars. And I think it's unfortunate because I think some of our best applicants, unfortunately, are in all that same area, but that would be my personal preference.
Yeah.
I agree with Denise. I'd rather have one be exit 10 in that location and then pick one of the other ones.
And I feel very, very similar. I think when we look at economic development in this town, we have 2 focused areas. I think in that lower part of 140 and then that exit 10 area, I think that's, and then obviously the downtown core.
Right, and with exit 10, of course, that is Blue Star Business Park. That's, certainly a very significant project that's, under construction. Mass DOT is putting lights up there. Condyne itself is putting in a lot of utilities, public utilities, so, and that's right on the freeway.
Oh, I love that you say the difference between, or that you use freeway and highway. And I've taught my children that, just so you know.
Functional classifications.
I know. Every
Ugh.
time we get on 495, my daughter's like, are we on a freeway or a highway?
But yeah, I think that site has a lot of positives going for it, along with a very strong application.
Yeah.
Um,
So, Laura, Sandy, do you want to add anything to this? And you can choose not to.
So I guess, I hate to just throw the two names forward. I'd like to sort of maybe give more of a ranking or more of a pros and cons list for the different ones, just because if you start to negotiate an HCA with someone and it doesn't end up working out, I want them to have the information, the select board to have the information that, okay, this would be our second choice, or this would be the next one we go to.
Yeah. I'm certainly fine with that. I mean, I think that's a valid point.
I guess I'm thinking more of a pros and cons of each of those. And my recommendation would be you pick one of these on 140. And this is our feedback on that. And so the priorities, and some of this is subjective in terms of priorities, right? And I think that's where the select board has to come in and make the decision about what they feel is most important for the town.
So let's do the easy ones first, right? We have 5 applicants. I think we're all in agreement, but let's take a vote on 4 that we're going to have more discussion on. So I believe from previous conversations, we've essentially said that Rosenbuds is not an applicant that we're going to move forward to the select board. So what I'd like to do is the chair will entertain a motion. Do you want to do this? You like person by or applicant by applicant vote?
I make a motion not to move that one forward.
Look at that, Mike.
Paul, come on, second it. You can do
Second,
that now.
yeah.
Hold on, I have to write my notes.
By the way, I'm just still kind of shocked seeing you two second and make motions. It's kind of just
I know,
off completely.
but that's okay.
If I
Okay,
could
so-
ever go to town meeting and say I call the question, oh, I would love that.
You gotta wait till we go through 3 more applicants first, and then you
Right.
can reconsider this.
Paul, I'm not sure. There's a lot of beautiful property in Norton. You can move here and we can make this happen for you.
Yeah, we can tell Keith to sit down.
Right. I like how he positions himself though, so close to the mic. He's always within like 10 feet, just so he can get up and move it. Okay, so we have a motion and a second not to move Rosenbuds on as a recommendation to the select board. So let's take a vote. Mike?
Yes.
Mike Units? Thank you.
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Denise?
Denise, Renee, I thought they were supposed to be always in the positive. Weren't they?
Sorry, but my answer was yes.
Okay, can we, this one's pretty easy. Do
Okay.
they need to be in the affirmative?
No. But going forward, we can do that.
Okay, Sandy?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Made that
Okay.
negative motion.
Yeah, I know. It's like, was this the first time we making a motion?
Well, yeah, Mike needs more practice. Okay, so we're down to the 4 applicants. So we have, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank here on names. Solar Norton. Lucky Green Ladies. I think I'm giving these in order as how they were.
Make sure you have the
presented to
legal,
us.
just for the hearing side of this and the vote side of this, make sure we're saying their legal name.
Exit 10 LLC. I'd have to look up the I think it's just Solar Therapeutics Norton, isn't it?
It's actually Solar Norton.
Oh, good. That's what I wrote down, Solar Norton. And then the last one was Team Green Norton. Okay. So, I mean, from my perspective, like, I'm going to go back to location, location, location. So I agree with the previous conversation on, I think if we're thinking of diversity, the Exit 10 LLC stands out. I think that they provided a great application. There's experience from the retail side. Certainly a volume driven industry, and the partnership with Cultivate. So that certainly, the fact when we think about supply, I think that certainly helped to seal the deal for me.
We should show them the security plan that Chief Clark wants.
Mhm.
They're the ones that are talking about not having security on site.
I think, you know what, we should have asked him too, who he sat down with, because I think
And if
he had a conversation with these guys too.
that's not a good plan,
Hmm?
that's not a good plan if that's the plan.
That is the plan.
But he didn't have, so
No
he
sec-
reviewed it, it was in the paperwork, but that's not like a specific Norton requirement. And
It really wasn't, because we had a question on theirs, which is why we went back and asked them if
Yeah.
they had an agent on site, and they followed up, and not only was there not an agent on site, there's not a dedicated security staff.
yeah.
I recall that they were open to discussion, and I think that would get hashed out in the planning board, right? They could ask for that to be, if they wanted to, a requirement.
So Renee, are we going to go through each of these and give our 1, 2, and then the alternate? Or how are we doing this?
Well, I'm trying to get the outliers, right? Like based on what Denise, Mike, and you had said, the
Right.
outlier,
Right. I mean,
and then we
'cause I
can have the
think-
deep dive into what's left.
If we don't mind, could we have a quick conversation? I just want to throw the idea out there of, I know we have 2 licenses, but we also know how difficult it is to get the state license and to get a establishment up and running. And I kind of just feel like we're limiting ourselves if we only enter into 2 HCAs. I'd like to consider we enter into as many HCAs as we are willing to recommend.
So I mean, Laura, I'm going to go back to, it's going to be a discussion with the select board. I think we send along our recommendations, and
Right,
that
but we're
discussion
talking
happens
about
there.
only recommending 2 right now. I think we have to,
I wasn't talking about recommending 2.
somebody did.
No, I think
So
let's see where the
I think I
conversation
am-
goes.
I think I alluded to the 2 preferences in the alternate.
Yeah. I'd like the select board to consider entering into potentially more. And I think to mirror what Sandy had said, we give them everybody that we're willing to recommend. If they're looking for maybe not even a ranking, but just a list of pros and cons, which ones we liked for which reasons. Because I think out of the 4 that we have, they all have their pros and cons. There are things I like about all of them. There are things I don't like about all of them. But those decisions and what's the determining factor and the more important piece needs to be
So
decided by the select board. I'd rather just give them the information and let them choose from there. But I think we should make the select board aware that they are not limited to entering into 2 HCAs.
No, and I understand what you're saying, but if we look at that, right? So then it becomes a race to the finish. We've got 3 actual builds and one partial build. We only have 1 with an existing building now, right?
2.
2.
2. Yes, I guess they have to renovate that building. Both of them have to renovate. So 2 with the existing.
All of them need something.
Those other 2 would basically not beat the race because they have to go through. It just takes longer to build a building from scratch.
Yeah, but building the building wouldn't happen until after they get their special permit anyway.
So I'm gonna say this, right? I will take the thoughts to the select board. But I can tell you, being seated on the select board, I'm not going to recommend that we enter into more than 2 HCAs. Because I don't want, and we discussed this with the planning board, and Denise can certainly weigh in on this. I don't want it to end up being the race through the planning board, right? That I don't think it's fair. We put this process in place so that the select board was the gatekeeper, for lack of a better term. I'm fine sending more than two recommendations to them, and they're considered. And if one falls through, we keep conversations open with the others to let them know the status. I know we talked about putting that stuff on the website. I'm just telling you what my position will be, but I'm certainly in favor of sending more than just 2 applicants to them. I don't want to send, like, we're down to 4. I don't want to send all 4 and say, hey, this is what you have, because I think we were charged with going through reviewing these and at a minimum providing a ranking on those that we felt were the best for the town.
So Renee, I don't think that ever came up as a ranking. I don't think we ever just determined that we had to rank them.
I'm not.
I would just, rather than saying let's rank them, again, the pros and cons, because ultimately with the 4 of them, I mean, I don't think there's any one of them, Rose and Butts, we eliminated. And I don't think there's any one of the other 4 that I would say I would have a real issue with the select board going forward with. And I think they, again, are gonna have to decide on what their priorities are. And I don't think that necessarily our ranking, I mean, because for all of us to agree on a ranking, it's not gonna happen. Right?
I can't decide. I keep going back and forth.
3, and we might be like, we're going to sit here and debate about whether they're ranked 2 or 3. I think it's a moot point. I think it's just, here's what we felt, were the advantages and disadvantages of these, and then let them decide which of those, warrant further consideration with the HCA.
I mean, I don't.
Andy.
So you think we should send all 4 to the select board without a ranking to say, I mean, and I'm going to tell you, like, our conversations, I'm going to use the example of the town hall and the community center, right? We said, we want you guys to look at buildings and you come back to us and you tell us your preference. Right? I mean, that's
okay without
why
a
we have other
ranking.
committees.
Yeah, I'm okay without a ranking. I think the pro and con list, and the only reason I'm not really in favor of a ranking right now, I'm having a really hard time ranking these amongst out of the 4 of them.
Yeah.
I've gone back and I've got, basically 3 number 2s at this point. And depending on who's in front of me right now, is I'll think about something else and I'll put them back down at 3 and then they go back to 2. I'm having trouble even just ranking them on my own.
It's actually a good situation. I felt bad, and I'm actually glad to hear that some other people are struggling, because I think we've had solid ones, and there are preferences in my mind that if we follow what Sandy's saying about the pros and cons, I think those are things that we can relay to the select board that could ultimately, make a decision. I think we're in a good position. I guess I'm less concerned about picking the right 2, because I think we have 4 that have different benefits to it.
I am wondering though if we all have the same number 1. You just said you have a number 1, Laura, and I definitely have a number 1 too.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's the same for all of us.
Okay, on the count of 3, everybody say it. No. So
You
I mean,
know,
I'll tell
I have
you,
I mean, I have my number one for both the two licenses. I mean, I have my number three, right? So it's, you know, I know what I want. I know the two economic areas I want approved. I know where the applications there. They were all out of the four that are remaining, they were all very good applications. I'm shocked that you guys are like, I kept having trouble deciding now because I'm like, for me, they were kind of clear, and I get that we're different, but I think it's one of those things where sooner or later we all have to just kind of say these are what we want and kind of put that up there and see if there's a favor.
what if
I
we,
think there's two major pieces here, though. So we've got the applicant and we've got the space or the location. And we have two really good general locations. But there are some stronger applicants that I would like to put in a different location. That's my problem. I'd be
Well, I
happier with a
don't
different,
think
yeah.
we can do
I know
that.
we don't have that option, but yeah.
So let's do this, right? Let's go through and talk about the pros and cons of each, right? And then just to kind of level set and share the insights. Because I think, you know, again, like their focuses and our overall goal is what is best for the town of Norton, right? And you know, I don't want to say the bottom line is that's going to be geographic diversity, but I mean, Denise alluded to early on in the process that we had people who were interested in, and while they weren't within 500 feet, they were on kind of the same side of town, right? So that's there, like that has to be a consideration for us because again, what's best for the town of Norton? Is it best to put two that are fairly, you know, similar in location, or is it to separate them where we can? So why don't if you're fine with that approach, let's just talk about the pros and cons of each. And Denise, or maybe I can ask somebody just to kind of jot down some notes, and then we can take this. This will be part of what we submit to the select board, and I'm going to record some as well. But I just don't want to miss anything, and I think Denise might be eating right now. But does that sound fair?
I just finished, I can go downstairs.
If you want, I've got a comparative analysis already built.
No.
I can put well, I've already got a starting list of pros and cons, so it's easy enough. I can just jot them in here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Laura.
Sure.
Okay, so you want to start with the first applicant?
Yeah, take a look at your phone, Renee. And okay, I'm ready to go.
That would be solar.
Yes. Yeah. So Solar Norton?
Yes.
Go for it, Paul. You took the first
I
breath.
would, the couple things with them, I think they bring a solid background in it. You know, we did, again, I want to disclose, you know, Mike and I did visit their facility in Somerset. It was quite impressive. And I think also the fact that that facility manufactures, they could distribute to their location there. I think the site works. I think it's, you know, it's a good site. I think myself, I have a site I prefer more, but those are my thoughts on it.
So I also like too that they, from a supply perspective, right there, it's internal. I mean, they're growing their own product. So when you think about the saturation in the industry, I think that they have the least amount of likelihood to be impacted by any shortage in supply. So I think that that's a pro as well for continued and sustainable revenue.
I would echo that and also add on to that. They're the most experienced, I believe, of all the applicants that we have, and actually have a facility where people could train at their other location prior to opening up in Norton versus training on the fly as they open, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, Denise. I do think too, like from their location, we had the conversation about, I think they had the most amount of parking as well. And they also had that area that wasn't shown as being developed in the plans that could be leveraged too, if additional space was needed.
Well, I would
So
say most dedicated parking, I think most available parking would be the Roach Grove.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. It certainly provides, they have some flexibility though. I think where, other applicants don't have that same flexibility to grow a bit.
Right.
I like the fact they were offering retirement plans.
Yeah.
They also had, they were contemplating contracting out for delivery. It's another source of revenue.
Anything else that we haven't mentioned that we want to add?
I think their excuse me, the municipal benefits, I think they did a good job in explaining what the municipal benefits would be.
Not that this is a big priority to me, but they are on the same side as Xfinity. So people wouldn't have to cross if they're parking on that side.
And not that I'm experienced, but if I was going to Xfinity and I wanted to go purchase something from there, I would park and then walk over versus the traffic issue that Mike Toole was discussing earlier, going against the flow and all that. It's an easy walkable distance.
So I was just looking at, just referring back to my notes to see if I put anything in there. I mean, I have almost 4s across the board for them. I think really the only thing where I didn't was the timeline, but most of them were all aggressive, so they were ranked lower. But I just wanted to see if I made any special notes. Anything else on the pros? Okay, do we want to continue on with pros for others or hit the cons on this particular applicant?
I would say hit the cons on this and then move on to the next one.
Okay.
I just
agree.
really, I mean, the one, it's not so much a con, but it's just, the fact that they don't have a current building that they'd have to build from scratch. So I think that, we did say we were going to give preference to using existing buildings.
Maybe I'm wrong. I checked my notes, but I thought they were using the current building and they were going to renovate around that.
I think they are.
Yeah.
It's still a build though. I mean, the current building is like a shed.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna expand it, right? They're not, the current building wasn't the same size, was it? Isn't that what we agreed on last time?
Yeah, I think they were gonna, and I think they're gonna use, it's a prefab that they were talking about. So it's not like it's a,
Like a longer term.
yeah, I forget what the term is for the, yeah.
Paul, do you
Something
remember?
Something sticks.
Yeah, I think they were going to expand it.
Do you remember the term though that Laura's talking about?
It doesn't matter.
I know, but no. Now I'm going to be trying to remember that. Okay. Anything else?
I'm not sure. how much it matters, but their environmental plan, it was really just cookie cutter.
In respect to retail, right? Because this is what they provide us from environmental was actually for the grow facility, right?
Yeah.
They did seem, when it came to talk to us, they did seem very much willing to do whatever environmental.
Oh, right, because we were talking about the parking lot.
Parking lot and, yeah. So they were certainly open to that, which was nice.
So would you put that as a pro, the
I mean,
flexibility
they're
and,
clearly an environmentally conscious company. They didn't necessarily demonstrate that in the retail in their application, but I think they can transfer over the fact that that's their priority, and they would make that a priority in the retail if the planning board had extra requirements that they'd like to see.
Mhm. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I hate to ding them on it, but I'm going to ding them on it. I still think their projections are not realistic, revenue projections. And they,
Is that a negative though, or are we just looking at compared to the other? I mean, I see as, you know, we're looking at compared to the other applicants, their revenue, I would think, would be the same or higher than others.
yeah, I
So
think
we're
it
all just
was,
guessing us in terms of what they actually are going to get, because we don't know what the decline is going to be. And
but they're multiples higher than anybody else.
But aren't they the only one they looked at what they're getting from their existing, right? Their
I was-
existing
I was gonna
establishment,
say, at least they're getting numbers from actual experience, not hypothetical.
They
right?
are, but they're also getting them from a time when they were one of 5 shops. I just kind of,
I sure hope they're right. I'd love it if they were.
I would too, but I think, I would have liked something a little more reasonable. Where a couple of the others went into some very great detail with regards to doing a market analysis based upon other shops coming online, as opposed to
that they-
relying on,
But I think they spoke to that, saying that
They
they felt
did.
like their product was
They
like they're
did.
setting themselves above with the product and services, right?
yeah. Here's
So
what stuck with me was
It's
the
like
fact,
shopping at a Walmart or shopping at a Kohl's, right?
here's the thing that bugged me is I asked the very pointed question, what do you expect and I forget which location, there's a Somerset and I forget where their other location is. They were talking about being within 20 minutes or 20 miles, I forget, of each other, and that there's no impact outside of 20 minutes. But the shop that they're opening up is within the 20 minutes of the 20 miles that they were talking about. And when I asked them a very pointed question about what do they expect for the revenue to do for the existing shop when the new one comes online, yeah, they kind of danced around it and wouldn't admit to there being a potential revenue drop.
Yeah, I'm going to say my experience from that area is, my guess is the Somerset one is pulling more from the Fall River area, and then the Seekonk one would be pulling more from, closer to like East Providence and that side.
Right, but that's just their shops. The unwillingness to accept the fact that more shops coming online is going to reduce everybody's revenue was troubling to me.
so Laura, I guess my concern is, if I thought their shop could actually bring more money in than everybody else's, which I don't necessarily know, but I mean, certainly with the supply, the fact that they have a good supply themselves, that would lead to that. The fact that they're considering distribution is going to lead to that. Those are all way more important. I care about what they actually bring in, not what they project, right? Because if I feel like they're going to bring in more than the other shops, then I'm not going to ding them for the fact that they were overly optimistic on their, or if the other ones were underestimating what they're going to do.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I was saying with the fact that, you know, they have their own grow facility, right? I think that they're more sustainable because of that, and we would see less impact in a revenue decline if the market kind of turned.
I agree. I just
I think it's a good point. It's a good discussion.
don't, yeah. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me the truth.
Right.
On their security plan, I like the fact they said they'd have a security guard, uniform security guard. The MPD will have access to their video. And also they said they'd pay for training for the police department.
Yeah, I've got a list of, on a separate tab, Mike, I've got a list of the additional contributions, volunteer, other bonus things that they had offered up. So I've got a list of those for all of them across the board. You can kind of compare.
Excellent. Any other cons or pros before we move on?
Are we leaving the environmental plan as a con or no?
I wrote it as a pro, but I did. I mean, I documented both, right? Like it was cookie cutter because it referenced the grow facility, but at the same time, to Sandy's point, right? That's kind of the basis of their company overall.
Okay.
I mean, I do remember the discussion about the LED lights, the whatever the parking lot thing was. I couldn't recall it if you paid me right now. Going once.
All right, so it's a pro, not a con. Right now I have it in both.
I have it in both too.
So on the con, I just have it as a generic written environmental plan. Under the pro,
Bless you, Sandy.
Parent isn't the right word, but partner. Good partner environmental plan.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say it doesn't stand out, but it also isn't, I don't think anything less than what any notes provided either.
All right, yeah,
think-
if it's
I
a
think
pro
it's-
and a con, I'm gonna take it out because it's just gonna confuse the select board, I think.
I think it's just one of those issues that's kind of even across the board for all four of them.
Okay, I'm taking it out of both columns. Just so as not to confuse things.
Okay. Anything else on Solar Norton? Okay, let's move on to Lucky Green Ladies. Paul, I'm going to give you the floor.
I think the location's great. To be able to do what we can to help revive a dead shopping center is really critical. I would say that just this and the exit 10 site are, to meet myself, the two big priority areas in terms of locations. Again, the other three that we're looking at on Mansfield are all good. I just think this is a real critical piece for the city. You know, obviously parking, there's a, as they say, a plethora of parking over here too. She's also social equity certified. The one con I have with this, and it's not, again, you know, it's not crucial to me, but compared to the others, she really doesn't have the experience in retail or marijuana, but even retail, whereas some of the others have experience in, you know, whether it was all the Dunkin' Donuts or the, you know, the club scene. That to me is a somewhat of a red flag.
Yeah, she's also the only one out of this group that does not have some sort of existing licensed cannabis partner, cultivator, advisor. She has no pre-set access or built-in access.
So I think though, Laura, on the advisor part, I think she does have an advisor.
She's got a mentor, but we haven't heard anything about them being a supplier to her. She doesn't have so I've got, is there an existing licensed cannabis partner? Everybody seems to have a partner, and in most cases, that partner is also the supplier or a main supplier.
Yeah, that's a concern, especially as more of these shops come online.
Yeah. So I put it as could have supply issues since not partnered with a cultivator.
I agree with that. And I agree with what Paul said too. Like I struggle with that location because, this could bring the foot traffic to that little shopping center that, really would attract other establishments. So when I think of the overall good of the town, I see that as a big item.
Renee, if you just from experience going to Xfinity and that, people don't typically walk to Great Woods. They drive there, then get what they need, and then go to Xfinity. But once they're in Xfinity, they don't walk to Great Woods typically.
No, I know. I mean, but they hang out beforehand, right? I mean, we had one of the Denise and I talked to one of the neighbors or two of the
Yep.
neighbors who had concerns with a retail establishment going there because before concerts, everybody gathers in that parking lot, right? Waiting for Xfinity to open up so they can get in there. So it's still,
That is
it still
yes.
brings, at least on concerts, which is very limited throughout the year, but it still brings additional revenue to the town. But I'm thinking of it more, Michael, like just that place has been, it's what, 50% vacant right now. And just bringing, like saying, hey, we have like this number of people now visiting, I think increases the likelihood of, more people going to Fiesta or more people. I don't necessarily think they're going to go to buy, some marijuana and then go and work out. But you have the Dunkin' Donuts there, right? So I think it can bring more to that particular shopping center.
Agreed. I it's there too. I look at this there to turn that plaza around. You need one or two types of stores in my mind. And I think this is one that could actually help it a lot. So
30%, that's all I'm going to say.
see, if anyone hasn't realized, this is what she does. She grinds you down, and then all of a sudden, somehow, some way, 30% is going to end up back on the table.
At the Springtown meeting, Renee.
I know.
So let's do it. Can we do ourselves a favor? Can we limit the time on each thing? Because this could go on. I mean, I know we've got two more, but I mean 3 more.
So let's talk, anything else on Lucky Green Ladies? So we
Yes.
had the location, the parking, social equity. Go ahead, Sandy.
I just want to say existing building, right? So again, that was a pro.
Yep.
And the social equity is a really big piece, not just because we said, we're going to give preference to them in our application, which, we did obviously, but it's also the, the training that, that this is not necessarily something they've had experience in, but I know, that they talked a lot about the training that was provided as being part of that, that program. So I think that's really huge. I think the advantages in terms of things being fast tracked at state level is a huge advantage. Just in general, I think that it was the experience wasn't there, but the team I felt had a great balance of experience, and I think also the certainly the application proved that she knew what she was doing, had done her research, had the right people in place to support this.
I've got that. 80% employer covered health, paid vacation, and offered retirement plan.
This one also had preference to Norton applicants, right? For the first month or something?
She actually had preference given to residents for 50% of positions. She's the only one who quantified it in any way.
Laura, do you have in your sheet the number of employees each
Yep.
projected?
Yes,
Would you mind providing those?
sure. Solar Norton had stated 36 to 42 within 3 years in their application, but they only detailed 19 positions. 19 seems to be about the average of everybody, so I'm going more with that. Lucky Green Ladies, 16 full-time, 3 part-time. Do you want
Thank
the other 2 now, or do you
Sure.
want to wait?
I'm
Exit
fine.
10, 10 to start, 8 to 10 part-time, 5 to 8 full-time. Team Green was 15 to 25 full and part-time, no breakdown.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other pros or cons for Lucky Green Ladies? Anything to add? Mike or Denise?
Just on a con was that any violations, the town will be notified within 12 hours. That's a con to me. On a positive, they did say the police would have access to their cameras.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Denise? Anything to add?
I was trying to review their materials again to try to refresh my memory, but I believe, if I'm correct, that most of the employees, or nearly all of the employees that they had planned, were all family. Is that correct? Or I could be mixing it up with someone else.
I think it was investment was family.
Yeah. It was her and her mom would be running it. Her father was funding it.
Mhm.
Well, her father and her mother are funding it.
Right.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Okay. Michael, anything to add?
I'm good.
Okay,
This-
Mike?
Their environmental plan was well-written, and it did extend to their suppliers too.
Well, I guess not to go back, but I guess that, you know, how we talked, Laura, about Solar Norton. I mean, if we say this extended to suppliers, I think that was evident in Solars too. I
Yeah.
know we took it out, but
I'm of the opinion there's only so much that they can't control what their suppliers are doing. They can control what they're doing, and they can try and source from a environmentally conscious cultivator. But I think if push comes to shove and they can't get supply from them, there's a preference for environmentally conscious cultivator, but there's nothing to put on the shelves, they'll probably resort to something else.
Okay, anything more on Lucky Green?
I think the site would have the least of the three, the least conflict with traffic in terms of its relationship with Xfinity, since it's the farthest away.
You mean of those on 140?
Yeah.
Okay, last time. Anything else? Okay, let's move on to the next applicant, which was Exit 10 LLC. Paul, you want to go first on this one too?
Sure.
You did
Again,
such a great job.
I'm glad I'm with a good team here. I think, again, this is a great location, right at the interchange, essentially. I think this helps support another really premier development in town. That development, Condyne builds, top of the line development. I was real impressed with their business group, and obviously they have quite an extensive background in retail. They've also aligned themselves, I can't remember the company, but an established marijuana business.
Cultivate.
Cultivate, thank you.
Denise, you want to add anything to that? For Exit 10 LLC?
We're just doing pros right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything that Paul just said. I thought it was a very strong applicant.
Michael?
Sorry, I'm having trouble unmuting myself. No, nothing. Nothing for me.
Mike?
I thought they, same thing. I thought they had a good experience. I think they would be able to, with their suppliers, they would be able to have product available, and it's a good location.
Andy?
Yeah, nothing to add. It's nice to have the one that's not on 140, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like a second to great location. It's also not 140. 140 is very popular. Laura, anything in your list?
The only thing we haven't picked up yet is their employee incentives. They're offering bonuses.
Okay, Paul, you want to start cons?
I don't really see anything, although one thing I do want to point out, we've just received, because parking came up as an issue here, we've just received an application from Condyne. They are proposing to eliminate the third retail building. So that will actually free up more parking. They didn't eliminate any of the associated parking. So parking should actually be even less of an issue now.
So why?
They give a reason.
So there was there was a third building, and it's just.
Yeah, it was.
They have a tenant scheduled to go into building 4, which is the other warehouse. And they have additional parking needs. And they just felt that with the current retail situation with COVID, that building wasn't a necessity, and they wanted to meet the needs of the tenant who's occupying most of building 4.
Is that the one that's opening now? I know this is kind of separate, but
So building 5 just recently opened. That's where Wayfair is. Building 4 is nearing completion.
okay.
It's right next to it, but it's about not quite half the size of building 5. It's about 130,000 square feet.
Yeah, building 1's what, 10,000 square feet? Building 2
Yeah.
is about a little bigger than that.
Yeah, it's like between 12 and 15,000. And it was on the back side of it, so.
Yeah, it was like a L shape. It was L shape between building 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, not crazy
Okay.
about losing retail space, but it's going to the planning board. We just received it today, actually. Oops, sorry, my dog has come up. But anyway, parking is probably going to be even less of an issue. But I remember in our conversation that had come up before.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of lost where we were in the process. Did we go around the table on pros?
Just cons with me so far.
Okay. Denise, cons?
I guess it's a minor con. The only thing I would mention is the parking is a bit of a concern. We did talk to them about that, and they were willing to work with the town to figure out some expanded parking options or queuing if they needed to, and those kinds of things. But that's the only slight concern that I had.
Denise, did you miss Paul's update?
Oh, I think I did.
So he was just saying that they took one of the buildings out of scope, and so they're going to have some additional parking from that.
Okay, then it's not a con anymore.
Okay, perfect. Mike? Units? There we go.
I wish their benefits package was more descriptive. It just mentioned availability. I know I brought that up before. Didn't really have a lot of detail.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Michael?
Nothing that's hasn't already been covered.
Sandy?
Nothing to add.
Laura?
So we've already mentioned the security, no dedicated security personnel. They also made no firm commitments with regards to contributions to the town, and no retirement plan.
Offering bonuses, but no retirement plan.
Yes.
I feel like the commitment part, I mean, I think again, we send more than 2 to the select board. I think that's going to flush itself out during the HCA negotiation. Right?
That's fine, but when you're comparing them against somebody
No.
like Team Green, they're found lacking.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. I was just mentioning that. Okay, any other cons or final pros? Okay, let's move on to Team Green Norton. Paul, we'll start with you since it's working so well.
Well, again, I think good location. I would, again, my preference here is when compared to the proposed 40B, I think retail is a better use in this location than housing, particularly because of the traffic associated with Xfinity. I think that's a critical one. Also, they have a very experienced team. Obviously, they brought a couple of experienced attorneys tonight. The group that they're partnering with also has a lot of experience. And then she, has run clubs in Boston, has the club in Randolph now. So that's liquor. So it is a regulated, so there's an understanding of, retail and an understanding of a highly regulated industry.
She also has a provisional license in Boston already too.
Yeah, right. She's a certified social equity as
No,
well.
she's economic empowerment.
Oh, I'm sorry, economic empowerment. Does that help expedite with CCC?
It does.
Okay, so so that's important. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. Mike?
I agree with the issues Paul said. In their security plan, they had a good security plan. So a good security plan, good experience. The location, I could find a better location, I think. I'm not sold on that location, but everything else I agree with.
Can I just also add, she was, quite explicit like tonight and in her application as well about the community engagement, which I thought was more, I think went beyond what the other applicants had done.
Okay. Michael?
That's the benefit of going last. I mean, one of the last for last, mostly everything was covered. I thought the application was good. I thought they did a good job presenting and overcoming some of the concerns regarding parking tonight and so forth. So, yeah, everything else I think is good. I think one of the factors that I'm going to be leaning towards if I had to make a decision would be, and I'm going to mess this up here, so Laura, correct me, social equity and empowerment applicants will absolutely carry a heavier weight with me because I believe it's going to make it easier for applicant to get through the process quicker. So I tend to lean very heavy on those type of applications.
Thanks, Michael. Denise? Did he say ask you? No, I didn't ask you.
Yeah. I think everything's been said. The location, I think, is of the ones in that area is probably the least desirable of those three.
The 3 on 140?
Yeah.
The other thing that we didn't address is they're going into a building that has 4 other tenants. And I don't know what. I'm not sure what the other tenants are in there and what they're going to make of a retail establishment going into that same building. Whereas Roach Brothers, I think they're all going to benefit because it'll be added traffic. The tenants that are in that particular building may not necessarily be thrilled about that added traffic.
Is that it's a very valid point, Laura, but isn't that the landlords? I sometimes find myself with
But is he going to lose 4 other? If he loses 4 other tenants, what happens?
Right. I sometimes feel like I'm stepping on the planning board's toes. I feel like I'm stepping on the police's toes. And I know we're supposed to get everything, and we laid out the framework, but that's up for the landlord to decide. My personal.
It is, Michael, but I think it goes back to parking, right? And with that particular area being, with that particular part of the building right now being vacant, the parking lot, when like the hub is in session, like it's full. And I like that they found, an alternate approach with Alberto's, but I'm sorry, Alberto's, like I've been there multiple times and cannot find a parking. Yeah, you can't find a parking spot. So you leave, right? And now you're going to put the employees in the lot and now they have less parking. So while it's great that there's a solution, I think that just causes now an alternate problem of Alberta's is going to lose business, because I can tell you, like, even now, before you add in how many employees are going to be there, I've taken my business elsewhere.
I agree with Renee on that part about using Alberto's when COVID's over and they get busy again. And I don't see spaces available. And also the number of spaces they have is probably governed by the number of seats they have in that restaurant.
Mhm. How else where we were? Sandy, I think you're up next. We were on pros. We've kind of,
Yeah, I mean, again,
Probably
going back
cons.
to the existing building, right, if they don't sign a new building. And I would agree with Michael that the economic empowerment is a, you know, it's not just a pro, but it's a big pro.
I think I jumped out my cons then, Renee, sorry.
no, that's okay. That's okay, because yeah, like I'm thinking in my mind about this with the economic empowerment. I mean, it helps to move it through the state, but then I think this one, just because of the limited parking, it's gonna tie itself up in planning with our planning board longer. Right. So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of working.
Well, I mean, I think that's part of my saying an advantage for an existing building though, because I think a new build has a lot more to go through, right? I mean, it seems to be a longer process when you're starting from scratch and talking about where on the site it's gonna go and getting into all those details versus an existing building tends to go a little bit quicker. I've you know, in the planning
Yeah.
board page.
And these aren't big buildings, but you're right, Sandy, that would take a little bit longer because then they'd have to start the construction process after the approvals. But, you know, if you're looking at a 5,000, 6,000 square foot building, it's not, those can be done in relatively short time.
And that one was some sort of prefab, right? So it's really,
Yeah, I was thinking more the planning board process. I mean, aren't there more questions? Aren't there more issues that come up with a new build versus an existing building?
Sure. Yes, there will be. But I guess, you know, when the planning board gets whichever two go forward, you know, this is going to be something they've not seen before, and but that could complicate it a little bit more.
Laura, anything to add for pros on Team Green?
Yes. They had excellent employee benefits, profit sharing, subsidized childcare, microloans. None of those we saw anywhere. They also had the best commitments to charitable contributions to the town. By far. And I think we hit everything else. Experienced team, existing building, good security. Yep.
Okay. Cons. I don't know. Mike, was it you that said could find a better? No, Paul, I think you said better location. Was
That
it you or Mike?
was Mike.
Okay. Sorry. But any cons from your side?
I don't have anything to add. No.
Okay. Mike, anything more to add?
No, just the location again, because of the parking situation. And also, you know, that's right where the 2 lanes cuts down to 1 lane there, and then you got to turn left to get into the place. So just the location. Other than that, I thought everything was fine.
Denise?
Yeah, location is the big down. And if we're thinking about, you know, concert nights, that's the one where the risk would be people crossing to get to and from from the concert. It's the opposite side of the road of the concert venue.
Mhm. I kind of like to clarify that too. Like when I think about this, I mean, you know, while we put those under cons, and in my eyes, I'm comparing it more to the location that's less than 500 feet away. Right. So when I think about the two locations, because they're both within our overlay, I think they're both really good retail locations. I'm more with these two comparing them on which is the better location, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys are doing the same.
Yep.
And I think, Mike, you actually said that, right? It's less than ideal on 140. Or maybe that was Denise, you out of the three. Michael? Did you say something?
Sorry, I said nothing to add.
Okay. Sandy?
Yeah, I mean, not even just the least ideal location, you know, I think the least ideal location on 140, especially if we're gonna choose only one on 140, beyond just the 500 feet. You know, that's the least desirable of the ones on that strip.
Mm-hmm. And Laura?
That mirrors pretty much everything I had. The one other comment was for all of the employee benefits that they do have, retirement plan wasn't one of them.
Was there any special Norton consideration? I think I didn't ask this for exit 10 either.
Team Green will aspire to, will hold job fair. Exit 10 was preference would be given only. No commitment to any percentage.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anything to add on Team Green? Okay. So I want to do just a quick sanity check because it's 20 to 10. We've gone through these. I know it went by fast because I can't believe what time it is. We went through these. Do we want to kind of take this information and then come back at the next meeting and plan to do a vote? Do we want to kind of power through discussion and think about what we want to send forward to the select board?
What is it we're voting on, Renee? I mean, I think I have clear in my mind what my preferences are, but what are we voting on?
Well, I guess we just need to determine what are we sending to the select board.
And so we decided we can send more to the select board than would actually have for host agreements, right? But the host agreement,
Licenses, yep.
yeah, but that the select board, we whittle it down to the 2 for the host agreements to go to the planning board, right?
The plan, yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. So that being the case, and we're only talking about 4, are we whittling it down to 3 or ranking the 4? What is the plan?
I mean, I'll put that out to the group. I have my opinion, but I'll ask for others.
Is this ranked choice voting? Well,
No,
That's
you have
his
to wait till
question.
after
I was
November,
thinking
Mike.
of Mike.
Ah.
I'm a belief that we should send two recommendations with an alternate.
So a total of 3.
Yes. But
I would agree.
I agree too. I think 3 of the 4. Other comments? I'm trying to see if I have a polling. I thought we had a polling option, but
I'm
maybe not on the
inclined to
webinar.
send the 4 with the pros and cons list and let the select board decide what's important to them.
that's not what the select board would. I mean, it really, the select board. You're then at that point you're asking them. It's almost diminishing the work in my opinion, diminishing the work this committee has done. because
they'd have to,
it's going to
they have
take
to
a
reevaluate.
snapshot at it.
yeah.
Right. And that's why I go back to, we were charged with going through this. So, I mean, I would say at a minimum, you know, we have 2 applicants right now that are in conflict with our bylaw. At a minimum, we should take one of those out.
All right, well, let's have a chat then. Let's say we recommend 2, they sign HCA's, neither one of them go operational.
Well,
Do we then, so do we then go back to, I'd feel uncomfortable going back to the select board and saying, we didn't pick them the first time, but these are the ones you have to go with now, or do we open up the RFI process all over again? What happens in that instance?
I think that's why Michael said having one alternate, right?
Yes. Yeah. And if both the first 2 fail, I agree with you. We open up the RFI process again. And then when we open up the IFR process, we add a question, have you applied before? And that would be, you know, if only one, so the first 2 don't finish and don't open, we move to the 3rd one. They actually do. Then we open up the RFI process again with the question is, did you apply before?
I think the other thing though is specifically where we have this conflict in the bylaw, I think we can say, look, this is the one that we propose, but the select board should be advised that another applicant within the same vicinity has also applied, and should the first applicant not meet, you know, the needs. I know we put that sunset clause in there that, you know, the board can come back to the EDC for the other applicant, and then we can at that point go out to the applicant to see if they're still interested. But I don't think it's taking it off the table. I think it's just saying, look, right now it's not going to happen, or we do just open up the RFI again.
Yeah. And
You know.
I think by just sending all 4 applicants, what you're doing is you're basically leaving the decision. And I'm going to say this respectfully to my other select board members. You're leaving the decision. They're going to lean on Renee and myself more, if not Renee. Right. And I don't want,
Michael doesn't want me deciding alone.
No, you know something. I've been very quiet during this process because I am going to get a second shot at it. So I've been very respectful, and you know,
it's not about. But we want your opinion.
Yeah, no, and trust me when I've given it.
I think that's what we've been tasked with, though. That's the whole purpose of this committee, is to whittle down the ones that we're recommending
Yeah,
to the board. So
I know.
yeah.
I know it's, but the one I'm going to cut, I
You feel bad?
30%.
it's not even, I feel bad. It's not a feel bad. It's they're worthy.
Right.
We have 4 applicants.
It's their location.
If we could give 4 licenses right now, I would say send them all to the board.
Right.
If we could do
Agreed.
it. If we could give 3 licenses right now, I'd say send them all to the board with one alternate.
Right. I agree.
Laura, this is absolutely one of those situations. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely one of those situations.
Well, it
Is
is.
that 40% again?
Yeah.
What if we were to do, I know we've talked back and forth about this, but what if we were to just do a poll? And then you just get the ranking average, and that becomes your 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's yeah, I mean, we've all done, I can, at this point, I know we all have our probably rank these.
I think we're all pretty close on the ones that, yeah, go. I'm sorry, Sandy.
I guess my problem is it's not really just an absolute ranking, right? Because I mean, who I'm going to put forth is not who I would put forth. The only reason I'm putting them forth is because we can't have 2 within 500 feet.
Right.
So I kind of like your idea, back to Renee, just saying we have 2 within 500 feet. Let's eliminate one of them.
Correct. Because I mean, I have a 1A, a 1B, a 2, and a 3.
Yep.
And I think we're well within our right to say to the select board that, look, should applicant whatever in that one, you know, in the vicinity where we have the conflict, either not appear to be a partner that the town wishes to engage with during the HCA negotiation, we do have another one to consider, right? I think we can advise the select board of that, but I think we have been given the responsibility. And you know, I'll tell you, right when I presented this to the select board to say, look, we're willing to take this upon ourselves, create a subcommittee, go through it and come back to you with recommendations, right? Like we took that responsibility on to say, hey, we are going to give you, for lack of a better term, the ranking.
Okay.
But my
So
only concern, Renee, too, with that is, you know, if we spend all, you know, sort of agonize over the ranking, and then the select board, and I'm not saying this will necessarily happen, but you know, they have the complete right to ignore all that, right? That
they do.
so I guess, you know, and again, the ranking is, there's an alternate. Well, it depends on who drops out, right? If exit 10 drops out, then, and that's one of our two, then, you know, we still can't go with the two within 500 feet. If
Right.
one of the two that we rank in within 500 feet of each other, if they drop out, then we can go with the other that's nearby. So I guess that's where the challenge is in terms of just an absolute ranking and just saying an alternate to which one.
Right. Well,
So-
and that's why I'm saying let's take out, you know, where we have the conflict, let's take it out, because the board shouldn't be the one to decide which one is with the one to go within 500 feet.
Fine with that.
So Renee, at this point, I think we've kind of all, why don't you just go around and just basically tell everyone, ask them to rank them?
So let's just, I don't think we even need to do that. I think we just need to, yeah, it's going to be the two. So let's rank
Oh, and
Solar
the
Norton
third.
versus
And the-
Team Green Norton. But
I thought, and the third. So we're giving the 2 plus the alternate.
well, let's first take out the 2, right? Or let's take out the 1 that has the conflict. And then if we want to provide the 2 in the alternate, then that's the next step. So again, let's remove the outlier,
Okay.
because we're not going to go ahead with Solar and Team Green as a 1 and 2, right? Because of the 500 foot.
Correct.
difference.
You could never open both of those up, right?
Now you
Right.
couldn't open them up, right? So that's what I'm saying. If we ranked them, I think we all know that can't happen.
Yeah, so we'll eliminate one of them, and then we'll, if we want to rank the 3 to say here are the 2 primary and the alternate, then we can do that. If we want to just send 3 ahead, then we do that. What I'm going to ask for those, can we pause for just like 2 minutes for a bio break?
No.
Would that be okay? I mean, I'll take you in the bathroom with me if you want, but
Let's just do me a favor. Just make sure you mute it.
right.
I'm
but
Camera
what I'd
off
like
and
to
camera
do is,
off.
yeah, I'd like
Camera
to actually
off.
pause the recording. So if we can stop conversation and then take like 3 minutes, would that be okay?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to pause now. It is 9:51. Okay, so it's 9:58 and the subcommittee is back on, all members present. Okay, so we left with going through and ranking either Solar Norton or Team Green Norton to move forward with. So I'm just going to go through my my screen here based on who's in the Brady Bunch box. So Laura,
Making me go first.
sorry. Okay, Denise.
No, it's all right. I'll do it. I don't mind. So I'm sorry, the question is who are we not moving forward?
No, the question is who to move forward in the affirmative, Michael, for you. Do
So
you
no,
vote for?
that's not the question, Renee. Those two aren't necessarily one, or you have to decide on 1 and 2, and then the third one is the alternate. Maybe I'm missing it, but
I think we're
Yeah.
trying to eliminate the 4th one, Michael.
okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. I think the problem is, Michael, is if you choose, let's say 2 of the 3 on 140, the third one could never ever be the alternate
Okay, right, all right,
because it's too close, right? Yeah.
right. You never announce the winner. You just announce runner up.
Right.
What are you trying to tell me?
Okay, so Laura, do you support moving Solar Norton forward or Team Green Norton?
Solar Norton.
Okay. Michael?
I would be Team Green.
Okay. Sandy?
Solar.
Paul?
Solar.
Mike?
Solar.
Denise?
Solar Norton.
And I select Solar as well. So we will move Solar Norton forward. Team Green would come out of the running. That's the conflict of the 50-foot bylaw requirement, and then the remaining are Exit 10 LLC and Lucky Green Ladies. So how do we want to move these forward? Do we want to just move the 3, or do we want to do the first 2 are what I'll just call primary recommendations, and then the alternate, as Michael suggested?
So should we just choose between now the 2 on 140? Which is one of those is the primary and the other one's the alternate?
I guess, because I think we're all, well, let's just make sure, are we all supporting Exit 10 LLC, just based on geographic diversity?
Yes.
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 Okay, and I got a head nod from Sandy. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. Who would we want to push ahead as primary, Solar Norton or Lucky Green Ladies? And I'll go backwards this time. Denise?
Solar Norton.
I gotta look at my screen. Sorry, Mike? Mike Units?
Sorry, solar.
Okay, Paul?
Solar.
Sandy?
Lucky Green Ladies.
Michael?
Lucky Green Ladies.
Laura?
Lucky Green Ladies.
You're gonna make me be the tiebreaker here. Man, I should have put myself first, huh?
Yes, you should.
The tiebreaker. Wow.
Can I ask a question? Are we considering them equal? Because if we are, then don't we have to, according to our guidelines, say Lucky Green Ladies because of the social equity?
Well, not until I break the tie. Right?
No. When you break the tie, that where you're asking them to, which one your favorite is. The other one is the alternate.
Right, but what she's saying is we mentioned in our ranking that in the event of a tie, the social equity or economic empowerment would break the tie. Right, so right now there's a tie, but as soon as I vote, there's not a tie. And if I'm not interpreting that appropriately.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm trying to think of how I say this. So if we did the ranked choice voting, my only question is if solar wasn't there and it came from myself, if it came down between Lucky Green Ladies and Team Green, I would have gone for Team Green.
Yep. But you can't because Team Green and Solar were too close.
I know, but now the question is.
So Mike, I know what you're saying.
Are we
Mike,
trying
yeah.
to decide between Solar and Lucky Green Ladies now? Because Lucky Green Ladies would have been my 4th choice out of all the proponents.
Yep.
Should have voted.
Yes, to answer your question.
Mike.
But you voted for Solar, right?
I voted for Solar, right?
Okay.
But if Solar wasn't there and it was between Lucky Green Ladies and Team Green, I would have voted for Team Green.
Right.
Sounds like an argument for ranked choice voting.
Right. That's what it is.
Well, that's kind of what we're saying, right? Anyway, I'm going to vote. I vote Solar Norton for this. So, so what we'll present to the board is the first 2, Solar Norton and Exit 10 LLC, with Lucky Green Ladies as the alternate, and then the, however we want to word it, Team Green, should Solar Norton fall through, I guess. Somebody in writing will put that much more eloquently.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Sandy?
Are we concerned we just knocked out the economic empowerment and the social equity applicants?
I mean,
Very much so.
it certainly is, but
We thought that was the one of the bigger pros. So and I was trying to look at the wording. It wasn't necessarily in case of a tie. It was.
it was.
It wasn't. It is if the applications were equal.
Right. I see Norton as I see Solar Norton as really above most.
And for me, I can tell you this right now. I had this goal for me, the committee was to really focus on trying to bring economic development to the Great Woods Marketplace, and this was one of those things that we could do that with and get the social equity piece into it. And this was kind of like, for me, that was the reason why I voted that way. And I understand all the applicants are very, very good. It really is. I think that business in that Great Wood Marketplace can jumpstart that business, that area of business.
I think so too. That's why it was so hard for me to, not have them. But again, I mean, I think Team Green was strong too. We're just it's a rock and a hard place, right? Like
So I guess, Renee, this is why I had an issue with ranking, right? Because we're now saying we agree with this ranking and I don't, right? And I think, Mike was saying earlier that his ranking is a little bit different. So I don't think they're just saying this is our ranking as a group. This is what we voted on, gives the information to the select board that would be the most helpful.
I mean, I get your point, because I can tell you right now, the argument I just made is the argument I'd bring to the select board meeting.
So do you want to do a voting of Solar, Exit 10 LLC and Lucky Green Ladies and see where it falls? And then we put them as our 1, 2, and 3. Because I thought we were just pushing 2 and then giving an alternate. I'm fine sending all 3 and saying, look, we support all 3 of them and this is why, and these are the cons for all of them as well. I'm fine doing that. I mean, you guys, I just piggybacked on what Michael said in respect to send 2 primary and then an alternate, but I'm fine sending 3 to say, look, as a subcommittee, and we can vote on it, right? We rank these 3 as the highest, and we're giving them to you and you can decide. And here are the pros and cons.
Yeah, I mean, my rankings aren't, for me, my rankings aren't going to change at all. And even though there might be a few months benefit for the other 2, I'm going to side on longevity versus speed to market, right? In my opinion, who's best poised for a longer survival in this business?
And I think just maybe adding to what Denise is saying, one of the things, they were all really solid applications. I just think that the 2 that I voted as my top 2 are ones that I think have the best chance of actually bringing it to light. Not to say the others couldn't, but I think these 2 have have that opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that I voted for were, and the way that I voted was more focusing on, hopefully they build it and it will come. And the 2 economic areas that I'm focusing on for this town, which is the marketplace, Green Marketplace, and Exit 10.
So I guess, again, this is where it comes down to the priorities of the select board. I mean, I think Michael and I think we're on the same page in terms of that social equity component. Lucky Green Ladies was my top choice, and now they're not being recommended at all, right? So that's where
they are being recommended
as an alternate, right?
If we want to do that, if we wanted to say these are our 3 recommendations, and we say these are our 3, but I think the select board's going to come back and say, well, give us your 1, 2, and 3, because we did that with the planning board, or I'm sorry, the permanent building committee. And they initially didn't rank for us, but we asked them, what did the PBC vote? So I would expect that to be a question here. I have no problems if we want to go through and let's vote like everybody.
But if I remember correctly, Renee, you didn't end up going with their top choice, correct?
I don't remember what their top choice was now.
I don't think we went with the number 1. And I guess that's why I'm not really sure why we're going to agonize about.
Well, if you feel strongly that Lucky Green Lady should be in the top 2, then I think that's why. I mean, like I said, we all agree, right? We have 4 really good applicants. But bringing 4 to the select board, especially with 2 that don't meet the bylaw, is an issue. And, I mean, personally, I feel bad about it. Like I think all these folks would be dedicated to our community. I think that they would bring good things to the town, but you know, our role here is to determine, you know, work within the parameters that we have. And you know, in respect to Solar Norton and Team Green Norton, they were both informed and advised that there was another applicant within the 500-foot buffer, right? So that was a risk. It's always a risk. Right? And everybody has known we only have 2 licenses and we have 5 applicants. So Sandy, you know, I'll take the lead on what you guys want to do collectively. If we want to rank them, if we want to just send all 3. My preference is to rank them. We don't have to present them as ranked, but if we're asked the question, I'd like to be able to answer it.
Yeah, I think if you look at, I mean, I have the benefit of having the pro con list. You know, unfortunately, we're recommending the way this looks. We're recommending the weakest candidate simply because of their location, based on the pro con list. And
So-
we are excluding potentially 2 stronger ones.
So I would challenge that because you're looking at numbers, right? Where if I weight this, my number 1 priority in weighting these is location. That's my number 1 priority. Because location is going to bring the best opportunity for more sales.
I would agree. Like location and secure supply are going to be weighed a heck of a lot more than whether or not they've got a 401k plan. In my mind.
So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to take a vote to rank them?
I mean, again, if we do, we can certainly rank them, but I don't think it's gonna reflect what, you know, everyone in the group feels.
Well, no, we just need it to reflect the majority of the group.
And I also don't know that the select board is gonna even follow our rankings.
Well, remember too, like the negotiation hasn't happened, right? So the negotiation can change things as well. So what do you guys want to do?
Personally, I don't want to rank them, but if I'm in the minority,
Okay.
that's fine.
You could just bring the 2 forward, and with the idea that if we can't come to an agreement with somebody, then there is a possibility that one of the others could move forward, depending on, so say we don't come to an agreement with exit 10, and we do with solar, we could still then go back to Lucky Green Ladies, right? Because that wouldn't be within 500 feet.
Right.
And vice versa, if we don't come to an agreement with solar, then we could go back to either one of the other 2 candidates. So we could bring the 2 forward and just say, if you don't come to an agreement, then the committee is willing to go back and look at the other candidates. And
Renee, I think I like your suggestion of bringing, 3 of them forward to the select board and then have ready the rankings in case they say we'd like to see your recommendations, right?
Okay. So we bring all three. We don't rank, or we don't provide preference until asked.
That's my preference, my opinion.
What do you guys think? Silence thinking or silence not sure?
My opinion is going to be against what the vote is. So I'm being very cautious what I say, because I was in favor of Lucky Green Ladies moving forward. And it's really for the social equity piece. And like I said, I was favoring both those Exit 10 and Greatwood Marketplace. So for me, Renee, I'm gonna I'll surrender for what the group wants to do, because I was very strong about putting something in those two locations and having an equity and having a equity candidate or an empowered candidate.
I mean, I think it's going to go back, like voting on it, it's going to be in the same place it is now. Right? With the 1, 2, I don't know that we have to really do anything more than we've already done.
I mean, essentially we're split, right?
Well, no, it's 4 for Solar Norton and 3 for Lucky Green Ladies.
Okay. I meant in terms of it's a pretty close. It's not an overwhelming majority.
Mm-mm.
That's why I feel like it doesn't really reflect just to say these are our rankings when it was 4-3.
Yeah,
I'm
Mike
not-
Massini's not even here. He could show up and we could be completely deadlocked.
Right, but he's not here and we're voting and we knew that we were going to vote, right? So there's nothing we can do about that. I mean, I don't have a problem pushing these
All I'm
forward
saying
without a
is
ranking.
All I'm saying is we could have ended up in a tie.
Right.
I guess again, my point, Renee, is if you want to give the best picture to the select board, it's to say we're a 4-3 split.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem doing that, right? I don't have a problem saying these are the 3. And then if they come back and say, well, how did you vote? To say, well, unanimous, we wanted to move Exit 10. And then when we talked Solar Norton and Lucky Green Ladies, it was 4-3.
That's I feel like that's what we've already.
Right. That's what we've done. So I'm fine doing that.
I would assume, Renee, Michael, that when this gets presented, you're going to tell the rest of the select board how difficult this was for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all saying the same thing here too, that the difference between 1 and 4 to me, and my personal thought, is it's so minuscule. I don't see a huge difference between them. And so again, on my take, if the board goes a different route, with those 4, I think we're making good decisions. This is just one of those, we have really solid applications. I don't see a huge difference between, this isn't like the football analogy, the AFC East, where, well, for 20 years, it was the Patriots and then everyone else. This isn't that.
What do you mean just 20 years? Come on, Paul.
This is more like the
comment anymore, unless you say the Buffalo Bills, maybe. But
I was going to say this is more like the NFC East. They're just all bad.
But
all good.
I just want to be able to relay to the board. This was just difficult because the applications were all so good, and I want the applicants to understand that too. That any one of them could have been, have great potential. But we're faced with a decision to move forward, and I stand by when we voted. I'll stand by my vote, but I certainly agree with some of the other comments, particularly what Sandy's mentioning, that we're leaving 2 that meet the different certifications that they achieved out.
And that those are fast tracked. Those 2 certifications are arguably fast tracks, right? I mean, that's
through CCC, right?
Right. I mean, those are, if you're talking landed establishments, those applications are gonna happen first. Can I ask Mike Units just a quick question? His voting was just a little different. And maybe I'm missing something specifically Mike, was there something specific regarding Lucky Green Ladies that would concern you? Because if it sounded like they would have fallen off your list as a whole.
Well, my concern was just their lack of experience. Because I want someone that can be up and running quickly and have the ability to get it done. And I just, out of the four candidates, I just thought they had the least experience.
Okay, cool. No, thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to call you out on that. I was just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something besides that.
Well, I mean, their three cons were no experience in retail or marijuana, no existing main supplier as a cultivator. I think I wrote that down wrong, but you guys know what I mean. And then it was the security just violation was 12 hours notification, which I think they would have complied, or they will comply to the immediate notification. So. Okay, so are we good with that approach?
Works for me.
Okay, Laura, I know that you have everything.
Renee, just review what we're doing. I mean, because we talked about two different options there. So we doing what?
So
2+1.
So we are moving forward with presenting 3 applicants to the select board. Exit 10 LLC, Solar Norton, and Lucky Green Ladies. If we are asked for a ranking, I mean, I'll talk in the beginning about the excellent applications that we got, and if we could accommodate all of them, we certainly would. But based on our review, we went unanimously with Exit 10 LLC because of the geographic diversity. And then when we looked at 140, it was a 4-3 vote on Solar Norton over Lucky Green Ladies. And again, both have, from a location perspective, both have really positive points. I mean, it's 30%. That's all I'm going to say. So, like I said, we can we'll type that up a little more eloquently, but we'll have some discussion on that, and I'm sure that Michael will keep me in line, and Denise, I'll as a vice chair.
Have I been ever been able to keep you in line?
Right.
I've never been able to keep you in line.
Well, we'll have Denise there. Denise can keep me in line then.
But when do you all expect this to go?
I mean, if we can prepare like some sort of written document, I'd love for it to go next Thursday, right? Because it's going to be an introduction to them and conversation on it. And I don't expect us to vote overnight. So there may be more information that's requested that we can provide, or, the other thing, it's twofold, right? So from perspective of the HCA, the board itself will not be negotiating the HCA. I'll represent the board and work with Mike on the negotiation part of it. But, the board has to first just say, okay, we want to move forward with the discussions with the groups, and then we have to figure out how the negotiations go. So, and the reason for that is because the negotiations on the HCAs do not meet executive, what's the word I want? Executive session. So that's why we'll have, and we've talked about this, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, that I'll represent the board in those negotiations with Mike.
And do you want us, if we're available, to be at that meeting?
It's up to you. Like, if I just need to know if we're going to have quorum. That's it. I mean, usually what we've done is I've just always had Denise along as the vice chair, but certainly we can do that.
Yeah, next Thursday, I know we have a virtual conference, so I might not be able to.
Okay.
But
I mean, I would imagine Paul at some point.
Anyway, I mean, I know that you all will reflect what happened here.
Yeah, and there may be some questions specific for planning that may be asked by the select board too, but we can you know, like I said, I don't expect that there's going to be a vote next week. I think it's just really a discussion and then a move forward with negotiations. Okay. Questions, concerns, things to add for the meeting? If you think it's too rushed, let me know.
Our next meeting is scheduled for when?
Our next meeting would be in
January.
Haha, I have November 4th.
I'm just kidding. Yes,
I know you are.
Of the,
I'd hunt you down.
that's of the EDC, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
it's 2 weeks.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, so process, Laura, you'll send that to me.
Yes, I gotta clean it up. It's got a lot of my shorthand.
Okay. And then, I mean, if you guys are fine with that, I'll treat it like we've done other things and I'll work with Denise on getting a final version. And then we'll submit that to the board before Thursday with you guys in copy. Mike, I don't know what,
That's next Thursday, right?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, not
Okay.
tomorrow.
Renee, do you want just the pro con? Or do you want everything I did?
No, just the pro con that we discussed tonight.
Okay.
Denise, does that work for you?
I would agree. Yep.
Okay, and then are you available? I didn't even ask. Are you available next Thursday to join the select board?
I believe
I think you muted yourself on your comment.
I'm as available at any time of the day.
Okay, perfect.
I may be in the car for part of it, but I'll be there.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, I don't know what we have on the agenda, but correct me if I'm wrong if we can't get some time for this.
Yeah, no, that'll be fine. We'll make sure.
Okay, thank you. So I have to think about that. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we have to make quorum? 5
I think
for
4.
this group? No, what do we, 9, right? The subcommittee's 9. So I just need to know if anybody else is going to attend because myself,
I'm gonna
obviously.
be there. Yeah, I'll
Okay,
be there.
so then we'll have to post for quorum. Okay. Okay. Anything else to discuss? Okay. We will have the issue of meeting minutes to approve specifically for these review sessions. So Paul and Mike, I'll come out to you. I'll reach out to you guys separately on those just to get you in a meeting and then we can go through and approve those. But otherwise we are all set. So thank you guys again for your time. I know it's late, but I appreciate the discussion and you know, the willingness to power through this and move to the next step. Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to end the meeting.
I'll make
Well,
the motion to end
That's
the,
yours.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Okay, roll call vote. Paul,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Michael,
Oh, just kidding. Yes.
and I vote yes. So we are adjourned at 10:29 p.m. Thank you again, guys. Appreciate your time.
Good night.
All right, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.